Today, the mega meaty man scientists found within moist meter laboratories go where no scientists have ever dared go before, and have taken the moist meter where no man, woman, nor beast thought possible. We're taking the moist meter to the incredible, wonderful world of big tittied anime goth girlfriends. Anime. Today we're going to be looking at Steins Gate 0. I'm a huge fucking Steins Gate fan. I loved the anime, and I even played the game back when it was on the Xbox 360 arcade. I thought it was going to be like one of those hentai games where there's like a lot of vagina and ass and stuff. So I played the game with my dick in my hand, but by the time I finished the game, I had my heart in my hand. My dick in my heart. It was such a goddamn great game, and the anime was just as good. And I was super excited for Steins Gate 0, and I'm super happy to say Steins Gate 0 is fucking great too. I don't think it's better than Steins Gate, but I think it is very, very good still. On the same level. It earns the right to be called Steins Gate with a 0 at the end of it. Now, this story takes place where Steins Gate kind of, right before it ended, where the timeline gets divided. Okabe, after failing to save everyone and reach Steins Gate, does not try again, and he throws in the towel. That's the timeline where this one takes place, the beta one. And it's a really dark timeline, and I know kind of saying that's a little bit of a spoiler for some people, but you can't watch Steins Gate 0 if you haven't seen Steins Gate. It's not worth it. You're not going to understand anything in Steins Gate 0 that happens because they don't explain shit. They expect you to know everything. They expect you to pass the test on Steins Gate lore at the end of the fucking show. You have to watch Steins Gate 0 having freshly watched Steins Gate and have like the goddamn Omnicron of Steins Gate lore open in front of you to piece together everything that happens in the first 10 episodes of the sequel here, which isn't really a sequel. But anyway, it takes place in a darker timeline, which is the beta one. And it really isn't afraid to get dark. There's a lot of stuff in here where it's very, it's sad. There's nothing overly dark. It's not like there's someone who snaps a dog's neck, drinks its blood, and then pees on an innocent old man or anything. There's nothing like shockingly dark or weird. But it just toys with some really dark themes, such as how many times can you fail and see something horrific before it breaks you and you give up? And just a lot of things, mainly circling around despair and throwing in the towel. And I like that they play with that. It's nothing new, but I think Steins Gate 0 does it really well, and it gives you nothing but likable characters. There's no characters in this show that I think aren't good, or at least well-rounded. I think they are all interesting, except for one. There's one professor. I don't want to spoil anything, but she's a very two-dimensional, flat fucking board of a character that is really only there to be like a caricature of a bad villain, like a James Bond or like even Austin Powers level villain type deal. So I thought she was kind of weak, but other than that, it's nothing but great characters across the board. And it's fucking great. I love the visuals in Steins Gate. I'm a huge fan of the whole theme of time traveling, and they play with it really well. Now let me talk about some of the cons, and there are quite a few that I'd like to talk about. The first 10 or so episodes are extremely convoluted. There's so many moving parts here and so much going on, and that you kind of expect it with time travel because everything gets messy there. But here it's overwhelmingly so. So much so where you're going to go to a fucking whiteboard and start writing down notes and then connecting arrows and shit, and it just gets hard to follow and you get lost, which isn't really a positive. It all starts to piece itself together and wrap itself up for a really satisfying conclusion at the end, but getting there it's a fucking mind-boggling ride in not a very good way. Another thing that I want to point out is these people fucking love the party. In this show, they throw a party every 2 episodes. They party anytime one of them farts. They celebrate. There's a lot of fucking parties in here. I'm not talking frat parties. I'm talking like your mom and her friends' book club level parties where there's little hors d'oeuvres and shit. Very tame parties. Nothing wild. No one twirling bras over their heads and going wild and peeing on tables. But that's not a complaint. That's just something I thought I'd point out. The only main complaint I have is the convoluted storyline. And the only other complaint past that is the action is really... It's bad. Like when there's an action scene with guns or fighting, it's laughable. It's like a YouTube animation. I don't know what happened there, but it doesn't seem like they had much of a budget to pull off action shots because it's clunky. There's a lot of shit wrong with the action, but it's not like this show's about blood, titties, and rock and roll. It's not that kind of anime, so it's not a whole lot of action here in the first place. But when it is here, it's just not good. But I just don't have a whole lot of complaints about this show. I really don't. I think it's a very fucking good anime, but it's something you should never watch unless you've seen Steins Gate recently, because you're going to need to brush up on your fucking information to keep up. It's worth it though. If you've seen Steins Gate, definitely got to see Steins Gate 0. It didn't disappoint, not at all. Let's plug this shit into the moist meter. I'm giving Steins Gate 0 a fat fucking 80% because it's fucking great. It is a really good show with some shortcomings, unfortunately, like I mentioned. I feel like they could have done better with laying out the plot in the beginning so it didn't confuse the shit out of anyone who watches it. But other than that, and the action, obviously, other than that, though, it's really good. It's a watertight, fun plot, and I love the way that they reintroduce characters, and then at the end, towards the end, they start to piece together everything that happens in Steins Gate, plus throughout Steins Gate 0. It's fucking great, and I can't recommend it enough if you've already seen Steins Gate, and if you haven't, definitely check that out, and then Steins Gate 0. It's fucking good. See ya. What the fuck's poppin'? How's that ass smellin'? Welcome to the Boku no Moist Meter. Today we're looking at the very popular anime series My Hero Academia, or Boku no Hero Academia as it's known in Japanese, which directly translates to My Penis Only Gets Hard for Anime Titties. Now, Boku no Hero Academia just finished its 3rd season, so I figured I'd do a moist meter for the show thus far. Full disclosure, I haven't read the manga. I don't really read manga anymore. When I was younger, I was a bit of a manga maniac, but not anymore. As I began to grow older and evolve into this mountain of masculinity you see before you today, I started sprouting more hair on my chest and my nipples, and I discovered I much prefer seeing the content come to life in animation as opposed to just a flat page. Now, My Hero Academia is a great fucking show. It's a show about Deku, who is a quirkless hero in a world where quirks mean everything. Everyone has one. It's very rare that you don't have one. Quirks are superpowers, basically. The whole world has superpowers to different degrees, and the whole society is built around the idea of being protected by heroes, one in particular, All Might. And the show is about All Might losing his powers but passing it down to Deku, and Deku rising up to become the world's best hero and save the world from evil and villains and shit like that. It's not a unique concept or anything like that. It's not like fucking Isaac Newton was revived from the dead, and instead of proposing gravity, he instead proposed the My Hero Academia anime plot. It's not deep, but it's fucking fun, and it's a lot of fun to watch unfold with really interesting characters that are well designed with some really imaginative superpowers, quirks. And it leads to a lot of fun fights between hero versus hero, hero versus villain. It's always a joy when the show gives you a fun fight to watch, because the animation is second to none and the fights are fucking great. And each fight is always accompanied by an even greater soundtrack. This show has some fucking bangers. I love listening to the soundtrack of the show even when not watching it, which I don't do for many things. It just really makes you feel empowered, like you want to fucking punch your ass through a wall or something. Like you want to take your fist and just jam it through 15 inches of pure adamantium vibranium concrete. It just makes you feel strong as fuck, like a hero like them. And that's when the show's at its best, when they have this climactic fight, All Might versus a super big tough villain, or a hero, Deku, versus Kachan or something. Just a fun fight to watch unfold. That's when the show is at its best. But there's a lot of points in the show where it really hangs, and it's a very clear filler. I'm all for character building. I love that character building, feel good shit to put some butterflies in your butthole. I'm all for that. But this show really sometimes misses the mark in that department, and there's no better example than Season 3. The second half of Season 3 is downright just awful, almost insufferable to me. First half I thought was great, but the second half, right when they start doing the provisional licensing shit, I just lost so much interest in even bothering finishing the season. Obviously I did because I love the show as a whole, and I know it gets better, but it was just so boring. The provisional licensing thing was, the heroes, the main cast of characters, they have to go through this test to get a license to be able to use their powers like the professional heroes do. That's very low stakes, and the tests weren't fun to watch. It was, you have to talk to some, survivors of a tragedy. Okay, that's cool. Okay, you talk to them. Great. You kind of fight some people. Not really. Okay, that's not really fun to watch. That was the whole thing. It's just this low stakes, no fun shit. It didn't really build characters. I guess kind of did here and there, but it just wasn't enjoyable. It was really boring and just so trivial. It just seemed like very clear filler, and it seemed absolutely unnecessary. Like, fuck the provisional license. Just skip that whole thing. I like how they introduced new characters from other schools instead of just having the primary school UA steal the spotlight. They had other schools come in. You saw some really cool quirks from them, but I'm sure they could have found a better way of doing that instead of like a dodgeball match, a fucking tag match. That's just so fucking boring. And there's other points like that in the series, but season 3, that arc dragged on way too long, much longer than it should have. If it was like 2 or 3 episodes where they built all that up, that'd be totally fine. I'd be on board with that and I would have probably enjoyed it. But when they stretch it out like that, they make like a fucking Dragon Ball Z fight where you're powering up, where you're just dodging dodgeballs for 2 episodes, it's boring. No one wants to watch that. Another thing I think this show really misses on sometimes is inspiration. And what I mean by that is there's at least 10 times per season, 10 to 15 times per season where Deku, he starts crying, he starts feeling down, but then one word changes his perspective. He gets inspired. And then the music picks up in this crescendo like, yes, I am inspired now because you told me about it. Yes, I am strong. And then he does that 10, 15 times. The exact same inner monologue, the exact same fucking trigger word every time. Like, how many times do you get inspired, motherfucker? Are you kidding me? Like, every time someone farts, this man finds new inspiration. Like, it's way too often, it's not always Deku, but it's way too often someone gets inspired by one single word, and it goes through the same monologue and the same exact scenario and the same, feel good, I'm strong, I'm unique, I'm special type deal. You can't, it really blows its load way too many times with that angle. That's like some traditional generic anime cliche thing, I understand, but it's overdone. It's at least 10 to 15 times per season, and it's just way too much. And each time it happens, you kind of laugh and smile because it's cute, but fuck, does it get old. It really overstays its welcome. The show, though, as a whole, I think is great. I love the villains. I think the villains in the show are so fucking strong. Right now, you don't know a whole lot about them in the show, so they're a bit two-dimensional, but they're so fucking cool. And one of the main villains, Stein, I thought was just a really strong character overall. It's a villain that you can almost root for and side with. You might not approve of his methods, but you understand his message. And it's just, everything about the villain side of the show is great. Heroes as well. It's just, there's no characters in the show that I think are super fucking weak or awful or anything. And there's not a whole lot of moments in the show where I think the action misses its mark or the story misses its mark. It's just specific episodes or themes I think fall short. So let's just go ahead and plug this shit into the moist meter. I'm giving My Hero Academia an 85%. I think this is an anime that you absolutely should watch. It lives up to the hype. I think it is a very enjoyable one. It's just a fucking blast to watch all around, in my opinion. So yeah, that's it. See ya. Welcome to the moist meter. It's me, the avatar of Greece, the unshowered specimen of pure filth. Over 24 hours without a shower, feeling real stinky, delivering another anime moist meter, this time for Attack on Titan. Season 3 just ended, so I figured I'd do a moist meter for the whole show. I think Attack on Titan is a must-see anime, even if you don't like anime, or even cartoons. I remember when the first season came out back in college, my roommates, who never watched anime, they were way too cool, I like football, I prefer the pigskin, not these fucking titties, cartoon 2D stuff. Then I'd come into the room and they're fucking watching Attack on Titan, embarrassed about it. Oh, bro, I was just flipping through the anime.com, you fucking weirdos making fun of them. But what I'm saying is, it was a show that captured the audience that isn't just anime lovers. It was a season that was so good that the general populace really got drawn in. For a good reason, because it's almost a masterpiece. There's a lot of low points in season 1, in my opinion, but it's super fucking good. The animation in Attack on Titan seasons 1, 2, and 3 is a fucking stellar. Outstanding. The action scenes are the most stylish and beautiful in all of the currently airing anime. The animation is just leagues above others, and that's my biggest compliment to the show. It's so fucking great when you get this high octane, fucking Spider-Manning around these naked giants and then slashing their necks. It's so fucking fun to watch. And on top of that, the show has a fucking interesting story to tell, a really interesting story to tell. It doesn't always tell it very well, but the story is good enough, and they do a good enough job to keep me fucking scratching at my neck like a meth addict going through withdrawals, waiting for more answers to the questions it proposes. You always want to learn more about the universe in Attack on Titan and about the characters. I don't think all the characters are that great. I even think the main character, Eren Yeager, is a bit underwhelming. He does a lot of sulking and, self-pity. Oh, fuck, my dick's so small, I have to keep the lights off because girls will laugh at it. I'm just not good enough. Why was I chosen? I'm not worthy. And then I'll have like a eureka moment and get inspired. It's 3.5 inches of steel and bravery. It's enough penis for any girl. I am the one. I can do this. And then he goes and does his job. There's a lot of that, and I don't care for that much. So I think he's not a super great character overall. But there are a lot of good characters in here. I think Captain Levi, for example, is a fucking great character. Well-rounded, super fun to watch. It's a really good show overall. And a lot of those, pinky out, anime, Puritan nerd, soft dick in hand nerds, like to criticize Attack on Titan and think anyone that likes it is some type of Cro-Magnon who has poor taste, but I don't understand why. The show is just really good. Even if you don't like anime, it's a really good show. Even if you don't like a good story, the action is really good and worth it to sit through the story. Now, that being said, there's a lot of exposition in the episodes, and that's kind of a negative. Even though I love the story, it's a bit of a negative because Season 3, for example, the one that just wrapped up, there was so few action scenes in here, it was almost insulting. It seemed like it kind of forgot what kind of show it was. There's entire episodes where it takes place in like 3 rooms total, just talking back and forth. It's not exactly filler because you learn very important details about the characters of the story, but it's not super fun to watch either. You're just being lectured. It's like you're sitting in a college classroom learning about like microbio or something. Now, that's not to say I think Season 3 is bad by any means, because I did enjoy it, but when you look back on Season 1, which had the perfect balance of a lot of really incredible jaw-dropping action and story, and then you look at Season 3 where it seems like they ran out of money and could only animate standing still, face scenes and mouth movements, it's sad. Because you want more action, and there is some, and when it's there in Season 3, it's still really good. But you always want more. You want story with the action. That's what the show was built on. That's why Season 1 was such a huge success in every part of the world. That's why so many people that don't even like anime fell in love with it. It is just really fucking fun. But it's not fun to watch the characters just stand in a fucking football huddle, divulging information to each other. That's kind of boring to watch, and it's a bunch of flashbacks, which also are not that fun to watch. Season 2 also kind of fell victim to that, not as badly. I thought Season 2 was pretty strong, even though a lot of people disagreed. I thought it built up to something really big, and then that something really big happened at the end, and it was very worth it. Season 3 felt like it was building up to something really big, and then it just ended. It ended on a very slow episode. It ended on a cliffhanger at the end of the episode, which was kind of just upsetting, because I hate that kind of shit when you leave a cliffhanger like that, especially on the back of a boring episode. That's just kind of a slap in the face. But, and I understand why, because they divided the season in half. It's coming back in 6 months. I get it. It's not the end of Season 3. It's Season 3.5's coming up. But still, why? It's just not a very interesting way of concluding Season 3. And a lot of Season 3 was just not that fun to watch. The story's great, though, so learning more about it's always nice. But there had to be a better way of going about that instead of animating full episodes where nothing fucking happens except talking. But overall, I think Attack on Titan is an absolute must-see. It does a perfect balance of despair and hope. You get to see some really, horrific things, and you get to see some really impressive reactions from the characters that seem so lifelike. The facial expressions, the voice acting, all of it really sells the emotion of the show and makes it a very dark and sad story, and a very interesting one at that. And the action, I can't express enough how much fun it is to watch the action in here. And it's so beautifully animated. The sound, the music, the soundtrack, so fucking good. Iconic, even. So let's just go ahead and plug this shit into the moist meter. I'm giving Attack on Titan as a whole an 85%. I think it's a must-see. And I really wish Seasons 2 and 3 took some notes from the first season, which was executed so well. Because Seasons 2 and 3, in my opinion, just weren't even close to as good. They're still good. I still enjoyed them, but they couldn't hold a candle to Season 1, the beauty of it, the grand scale of things, all the fun of it. But it is still absolutely worth watching, and I think the next season of Attack on Titan, the 0.5 of Season 3, is going to be fucking amazing. Because they've hyped it up for 13 episodes worth in this, pseudo season, so it's gotta be a huge payoff, I would hope. So I'm excited for that, and I absolutely think Attack on Titan is a show you need to watch if you like anime, and even if you don't, because it's really fucking good. So yeah. Welcome to the Moist Meter. Overlord is an anime that's been recommended to me so many times I expected it to be some type of divine show, like the fucking Jehovah's Witnesses kept banging on my door promoting Overlord to me. This show is so hyped up, I expected it to put inches on my penis and give me the winning lottery numbers. And after finishing all 3 seasons, I binged them. I can safely say it was good, but it's nothing super special or anything. Following the recent trend in anime where every anime has to take place inside of a video game, this show takes place inside of a video game, kind of. So there's a power player in a very popular dive MMO that is giving one last oorah before the game goes offline. They're shutting down the servers and he decides to go back in and jerk off one final time because he spent so long on the game and he's so powerful, part of the best fucking guild. So as the servers shut down, he's still in. Servers go off, and then he immediately gets transported to the real world variation of the game, and he becomes his character. So it's a little different than Sword Art Online, where the people are still in the real world, they're just stuck in a video game. Here he gets transported to an actual, real, unfamiliar world, but as his character, and his guild comes with him. And they're all real now too. It's not a unique story, but it's a fun one, and I think it's executed well. I enjoy the characters, I enjoy the story, but this show has so many fucking problems. The biggest being laughably bad CGI. The CGI in this show is so fucking bad it makes Jimmy Neutron look new and innovative in the 3D department. I mean, somehow the CGI in this show is worse than Beast Wars and Jimmy Neutron, both of which came out in the early 2000s. It's laughably bad, insufferably bad, and it's used so frequently. Every single fight and so many other scenes that aren't even fights are relying on CGI. I know why, because budget constraints, but man, it's jarring and bad. Anytime anime uses CGI, it's always a disaster, and this show uses it fucking frequently. And another thing that shows how low the budget for this must be is the fight scenes, because 9 times out of 10, if you're watching a fight scene, like in the middle of it, it'll pan out of the fight and just show you the moon, or some fat guy's asshole off to the side or something. Anything to take you away from the action, which would cost money to animate. So it shows something else, and then you just hear the action. You hear swords clashing, blood spilling, cum flying, and then it'll pan back after the fight, and then you see the aftermath. Oh, it's fucking cool. Yeah, I guess I'll just use my imagination. It's silly. It's really bad. When there's a fight, you know you're only going to get like 3 seconds of the fight, and then you're just going to be looking at the sand or the grass, and then you'll get to see the aftermath. It's boring. It's really boring, and it's a shame because there's so much they could do with the fights in this, and sometimes there are fights that aren't panned away or CGI'd, and when that happens, it's nice, it's refreshing, it's cool. But that's super rare. 9 times out of 10, you're getting bad CGI with fucking claymation figures falling away, and then you're gonna get panned away action and you'll hear the fights. That's about it. But, I mean, that's a huge, huge negative when the show is about this really fucking powerful guy with some really cool spells, powers, and subordinates rampaging and taking over the world. You've got to have some flashy shit go on, and that just does not happen in this show at all. But that's still a good show. It's fun to see how he goes about taking over certain places, how he plans to rule them, and also how far he's fallen from being a human. He truly has no humanity left in him. He has become his character, the Overlord. And it's nice, and I think all of the characters are pretty strong, save for a couple shitty ones. There's some shitties in here, but overall they're pretty fleshed out and fun to watch them scheme and interact and shit like that. Another huge shortcoming of this show is for some reason it has this incessant need to focus on the most boring aspects of the universe. For example, in season 2, like the first 5 episodes are about a lizard man tribe. Who gives a fuck about the lizard man tribe? They don't do anything interesting. It's just, hey, we're lizardmen. There's 5 different tribes of lizardmen. Well, let's unite the tribes of lizardmen. All right, let's go do that. All right, good shit, lizardmen. And it leads up to Ainz coming in and just saying, hey, I'm going to conquer the lizardmen. They're like, all right, you conquered us. The lizardmen submit. Who wants to watch 5 episodes of this shit? Maybe like 2 episodes of the lizardmen assembling and trying to unite against Ainz and then failing. But stretching it out over like 5 episodes, man, it was tiresome to watch. What a fucking chore. And it's not just the lizardman arc, if you want to call it that, more like the lizardman fart, but season 3 had the same thing where it focused on some really trivial situations and characters you just didn't care about. It just seems like it was padding for episodes. I don't understand why they focused on those things instead of the actual fun shit, which is Ainz trying to get his name out there and take over, and also the other interesting characters in other portions of the world, but instead they focus on the boringest one. It's just missed the mark there. Big time. Those episodes were a goddamn schlog. So let's just go ahead and plug this shit into the moist meter. I'm giving Overlord a 65%. It's a show I would still recommend, especially for those fans of like the video game setting shit, because it's a lot of fun when Ainz is using these incredible spells and then it gets super anime cliche where his enemies are like, oh my god, that's 50th tier magic, thought only to be used by Jesus Christ himself. I cannot believe what I am seeing in front of my eyes right now. The power of friendship. It's failing us. It's fun. It's really fucking goofy fun. And when the fights are actually animated, not in CGI and not panned away, the fights are fucking cool. Just spells being cast at each other and then the occasional sword fights. It's nice to watch that shit go down. And then it's got like the standard video game shit, which is kind of cool to see come alive. Overall, it's a good show, but man, it has so many fucking shortcomings, and I think it could be so much better if its budget was a little higher, or if they knew what to really put in the episodes and focus on and not draw boring shit out. But I mean, yeah, it's a show I'd recommend. Just a lot of unrealized potential. So yeah. Welcome to the Moist Meter. Get out your waifu body pillows and fleshlights, because today we're going asshole deep into another anime. We're looking at Goblin Slayer. Goblin Slayer is a show that I thought got off to a fantastic fucking start. The first episode wasn't afraid to be edgy and dark, and it did it well. I thought it was a really good first episode that I hoped would set the tone for the whole season, but it didn't. The first episode is probably the best in the entire season. Everything else after that is just lackluster and just kind of boring and cliche. I wouldn't call this a generic anime though, because it breaks pretty much most traditional anime tropes. For example, instead of following like the big heroes in anime, you always get like the big-dicked warriors going up against the even bigger-dicked enemies, defying the odds and using the power of friendship and big anime titties to beat the bad guy in the end. In this show, you don't follow that. You follow some broken psychopath who's just obsessed with cleaning up goblins. He's just like the fucking janitor of this world, just doing the low-level tasks that everyone kind of spits on, and he is a very, very cool character. But what I'm saying is it doesn't follow those heroes. In the show, they just reference the heroes as side characters. Oh, the hero just defeated the super evil bad god lord, but now we gotta go kill some goblins. And I really like that. However, Goblin Slayer is the only good character in the show. Every other character is super forgettable and generic. For example, you have the Argonian-looking motherfucker, the Skyrim Argonian-looking guy, whose only deal, his only quirk, is that he likes cheese and food. There's the dwarf, who only knows one spell to shoot pebbles at a mildly fast pace. He's the world's worst earthbender. You have the elf archer, who, she's that generic attitude girl. Independent, strong lady who can drink a lot of alcohol, doesn't need a man, but secretly blushes every time Goblin Slayer looks at her. It's a boring cast of characters surrounding a great character. Goblin Slayer himself is fantastic. The other ones, not so much. Now, the whole show is about Goblin Slayer and his party going on quests that no one else wants to do because it's just killing goblins. And, that's cool from a conceptual level, but it's not that fun to watch play out. The first episode sets this tone where goblins are grisly, scary creatures that everyone underestimates, and then they get fucked by them, quite literally. And then after that, they kind of just become background enemies. Like, they're not terrifying anymore. They never do anything too spectacular until the end again, and it just becomes a vehicle for Goblin Slayer to develop. I understand that, but that doesn't make it super fun to watch. It is nice sometimes though, like there are some scenes where the goblins are terrifying and they do some crazy shit, but it's never anything that matches the first episode or anything even close to that level. What I do appreciate though is Goblin Slayer isn't a great warrior. He just really understands goblins, knows how they think, and can outsmart them every single time with just better strategy. I fuck with that hard. I thought that was really cool. Instead of him just being this overpowered, muscular hunk of a monster, just fucking brutalizing goblins by squeezing their fucking eye sockets into oblivion, he just outsmarted everyone with good strategy, and that was cool. But still, the episodes aren't good, and they also rely heavily on CGI in the beginning. Thank God they stopped using so much CGI towards the end. I guess some hero at the office stood up and said, you know what, this is enough CGI for one anime. CGI in anime fucking sucks, guys. Let's put the brakes on this and actually just get rid of it for the rest of it. So about halfway through, it just stops using CGI, so thank God for that. Now, I've been kind of shitting on the middle episodes in between the first and last two, but they're not all bad. It serves to humanize Goblin Slayer. He starts to open up more and starts to learn to feel, because he's like a husk of a man, and through his quests with his party, he starts to learn to be human again. So it's nice to watch that character develop, but even still, the episodes just don't play out in a very good fashion. Just really not a lot happens, especially when the first episode sets the tone of, these goblins will fuck your shit up if you don't know what you're doing. They start to become bumbling fucking imbeciles again in between. And the strategies that Goblin Slayer employs aren't all that clever every time. Sometimes his strategy is, hey, shoot some rocks at this one and I'll shoot some fire. Well, I could have fucking figured that one out. A 4-year-old with his Lincoln Logs could have probably devised that plan as well. Overall, though, the show's not bad. I did enjoy it, and I think the last 2 episodes are extremely wholesome with a really nice payoff. So let's just go ahead and plug this shit into the Moist Meter. I'm giving Goblin Slayer a 65%. It's a show that's probably worth watching, but don't expect the first episode's tone to carry over through the whole series, because it absolutely doesn't. It seems like it loses its way. I don't know what it's like in the manga, I don't read that shit, but here it really seems like it got almost afraid to be the same way it was in the first episode, which is a shame, because if it could have kept that tone up, it could have been something special. But anyway, not a bad show. That's it. See ya. The new Dragon Ball Super Broly movie just dropped in America. Let's plug that bitch into the moist meter. So, Dragon Ball is a series I grew up with. I fucking loved it. I was watching it before I had any hair on my nutsack or in my asshole. Now I'm fucking covered in it. But while I was watching this movie, it made me feel like there was no hair down there again. It made me feel like a kid on the edge of my fucking seat. Come on, big muscle man. Punch him in his big muscly abs. And then rip at his nipples and really milk those milky milk tank pecs of his. Really get after it. Power up and scream. It was so fucking fun. I'll go ahead and admit I'm not kept up with Dragon Ball Super. I gave it a try when it first came out, but I didn't enjoy it, so I dropped it. But I'll probably start watching it now because this shit was so good. So I'm not familiar with the modern Dragon Ball lore, and I still really fucking enjoyed this movie. I saw all of Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, and all of Dragon Ball GT for however useless that shit was. And I still really fucking love this movie. I loved the original Broly movies, and I like what they did with this one. They completely changed his origin. Well, not completely, but they retconned most of his origin, which is a good thing, because his origin previously was really fucking goofy. Like, he was just damaged because Goku cried a lot when he was a baby, so then the crying really makes him sad and mad at the same time. It was a fucking weird, goofy origin, so I like what they did here. They made Broly a super interesting character instead of this weird sociopathic madman who just really gets mad about Goku crying. So I like that. They made the character really cool. He was always cool, but they made him like an actual interesting, cool character, not just like a two-dimensional ab machine. I also like every other character in this movie, too. I really was surprised by how much I enjoyed the shit that wasn't fighting. I went into this thinking only the fighting would be fun, but really everything was good. Even like the little wholesome moments between the characters, the way they got along and the little jokes they'd crack. It was all just wholesome and enjoyable. And the fights were fucking spectacular. Some of the best I've seen in anime, actually. I don't know if Dragon Ball Super, the show, has this level of quality, but if it does, holy shit. The fights were absolutely spectacular to watch. The second you thought the fight was winding down, there'd be like just some filler dialogue like, I have big muscles, you have big muscles, and I'm going to scream about it, and we're going to sit here for 2 minutes and just talk. It didn't happen. There'd be maybe like a quick exchange of a sentence or two, and then bang, right back to jerking dicks into assholes. It was fucking wild. It's incredible how they just kept ramping up the action, but it was so goofily fun. I couldn't help but notice it. Eventually, the fight between Goku, Vegeta, and Broly took place on ice, and then all of a sudden, all of the ice gets destroyed, and it takes place in the core, and the core is getting fucking destroyed. Then all of a sudden, it's taking place in like this alternate dimensional multiverse space-time continuum tear, and then that fucking explodes. So Doc Brown and Marty get fucked. It was weird. Like, it kept changing, but from one location. Like, they were so powerful, they were literally changing reality around themselves. Like, fuck the Infinity Stones. They were literally punching reality out of existence. It was wild. It was so beautiful to watch. And one thing I always talk about with anime that I always fucking hate, but all anime does it, is CGI. And this movie's, it's not, innocent in that regard. There's CGI in here, and there's quite a bit of it during the fights. I understand why, because the fight is like fucking 40 minutes of pure high-octane testosterone going on. But you can't help but notice when that CGI comes on screen. It's really not as bad as I expected. It's not nearly as bad as every other anime that uses CGI, like a Goblin Slayer or Overlord or anything like that. It's pretty decently done, and some of it is even kind of hard to notice, which is admirable. I just really fucking hate CGI, and I have to pay compliments that at least when they used it, it wasn't that bad. So that's good. Another complaint that I have is, in Dragon Ball, one thing it's famous for is them saying the attacks like, Gallic Gun, Kamehameha, big Cum Blast move, almighty Omega Lord. That doesn't happen. So now when one of them uses a Gallic Gun, for example, Vegeta uses the Gallic Gun, he doesn't say it. For some reason, there's like this ethereal voice that says Gallic Gun. It's like part of the soundtrack, as if like one of the musicians, while shredding on the guitar and like double bass pedaling his drums, just says Gallic Gun. It was dumb. I really didn't fucking like that at all. It felt weird. It felt super out of place. I don't know why. you wouldn't have the characters do what you expect them to do because they've done it for 20 fucking years. I don't know why they changed that here. I don't know if it's like that in the show, but in the movie, I didn't like that at all. That made me very sad because I was looking forward to, a grand Kamehameha from Goku. That shit is iconic. But instead, you get the name being said by the leader of the marching band in the background. So it's a nitpick. It's a complaint, but it's not a big deal, especially when everything else around the movie and the fight was good. It's just something that you'll immediately take notice of and be like, well, that's kind of fucking sad. But otherwise, this movie is just going to be purely pumping blood to your penis while watching, especially if you're a fan of the show. Let's go ahead and plug this shit into the moist meter. I'm giving Dragon Ball Super Broly an 85%. It is a great action animation. I wouldn't go in there expecting some kind of tale that's going to be a profound statement or going to be like a really thought-provoking piece. It's Dragon Ball. You don't get that shit. You get muscles, explosions, and testosterone. And you get that in excess here. It's fucking great. And I really enjoyed it start to finish. I think if you like Dragon Ball, I think absolutely you're going to love this one. But even if you're not a fan of this series, I do think there still is a lot to like here if you can appreciate good old-fashioned animation. So yeah, that's it. So yeah. I know I'm a little late to the Mob Psycho circle jerk, but better late than never. I loved One Punch Man, and season 2 of One Punch Man just started, episode 1 just came out, and it sucked some serious dog anus in my opinion. I thought the animation looked like trash. Genos is truly ruined. The fight, I'm not going to get into it. Everything about season 2 episode 1 I didn't really like, except for some of the humor, and King is a good character. I'm not here to moist meter that. I'm here to look at Mob Psycho. I figured I'd go ahead and cleanse my palate by watching the second season of Mob Psycho 100, and it did more than cleanse my palate. It gave me a full-blown erection. Mob Psycho is a visual eye orgasm. That show is absolutely beautiful, and one thing that it does well that I think a lot of other anime don't is it does humor super well. It's from the same creator of One Punch Man, and One Punch Man does humor well, so this guy's just got it down. The reason I think it works so well in Mob Psycho, the comedic elements, is because they over-animate the shit out of it in a really good way. So even like a trivial scene where Reagan's giving like a massage to a customer that he's scamming has beautiful animation and lighting to it, and it really enhances the joke. And it's a fucking great animated scene for a 3-second joke, whereas other anime has like a fucking 3-minute fight scene that looks like asshole. It's incredible what Mob Psycho does and how beautiful it is to look at, even when it is just telling you a little joke. It makes it absolutely beautiful to look at, even if you don't like the joke. And there's a lot to be respected there. I think comedy in most anime sucks, but here and in One Punch Man, it's done very well. Mob Psycho is about a boy with psychic powers. He's a young middle schooler, and he works part-time for a con artist named Reagan. And together they exercise spirits, and Mob he starts to learn to come into a shell and, learn to really figure out who he is and how to fit in the world with this overwhelming power. In a lot of ways, he's very similar to Saitama in One Punch Man, but whereas Saitama is just an example of the end-all, be-all of what the best possible godlike power could ever look like, Mob is a much more relatable character that a lot of people will feel connected with in certain ways across his journey. Season 1 serves to show you just how fucking strong Mob is, and it does it beautifully. Watching a fight scene in this show is an absolute joy. It's as if the 1980s aesthetic but fucked a rainbow, and then you could really, like Skittles, fucking taste it. You could see it. It was an absolutely beautiful eruption of colors anytime a fight happened. From the very first episode, they really show you just what kind of show you're getting into in terms of its visual design. It's a really unique aesthetic that works super well for the show that I have not seen in anything else in the animation medium. It's fucking beautiful, is what I'm trying to say. I absolutely love Mob Psycho 100's aesthetic, and anytime there's a fight, I'm overjoyed. And there's a lot of good supporting characters around Mob, some other psychics such as Hanazawa, who also has some really cool psychic abilities and good fight moments. Now, like I said, Season 1's all about just kind of showing you how strong he is and showing you that he's very awkward and it's very clear he's being taken advantage of. Season 2 slows down the pacing, whereas it was breakneck, dick-busting, psychic fights. It kind of slows it down to make it more of a growth for Mob, where he comes into who he is. It shows you evolving and changing and really trying to figure out his place in the world and what he wants to be. He starts being more independent, and it's very cute. There's a lot more heartwarming scenes in Season 2. It's a lot more of a slice-of-life anime for most part of it, and there's nothing really wrong with that. I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily, but to me, the show's at its best when it's mixing comedy and nut-busting, gorgeous action. For instance, anytime Reagan enters a fight, he has like a brand new special move that is so beautifully animated and entertaining to look at, like the fucking salt punch on a spirit, and it has like a slow, fade to like this attack screen that illustrates what the move is, how he came up with it, why he uses it, like a fucking WWE wrestler card. It's really cool. I love that shit. And when Reagan fights in the final episode of season 1, everything there, I think, is when Mob Psycho is really doing its best work and when it's the most interesting. But I'm not trying to shit on season 2 for going with a more humanizing route and slowing down the pacing, because it is a show where you really care for the characters and you like to see them grow. And it does have a nice, final battle segment. And they're in the middle. There's a fight with another character named Mogami, which is really beautiful as well. So really, the show never loses its charm. There are some episodes that I feel are kind of weak. For example, when Reagan's getting exposed as a scam artist and shit. I didn't think all of that was really very interesting. But it always led up to a heartwarming moment or a fun payoff with a fight or something like that. Really, I don't have too many complaints about the show. So let's just go ahead and plug this shit into the moist meter. I'm giving Mob Psycho 100 a 90%. I do think if you like anime, it's a show you should watch. If you like anime, you've probably already seen it anyway. I'm fucking late to this one. I came in here limp-dickedly. But anyway, it's something I'd recommend. The shit's great. And you should definitely watch One Punch Man Season 1 as well. It's from the same creator of this show, but I'm sure most of you knew that as well. You fucking anime fans are damn near omniscient. But anyway, that's it. So yeah. The first season of One Punch Man is an absolute fucking masterpiece in every department. The characters are well written, the comedy lands, the animation is beyond beautiful. Every fight scene in the first season of One Punch Man is truly outstanding, thanks to a lot of the freelancers that really worked on it and put a lot of passion and soul into it, leading to this incredible and very unique, very rare season of anime. Everything about the first season of One Punch Man is beautiful perfection. And for the respect out of the first season, I'm going to be dividing this moist meter in 2 parts. Season 1 and Season 2. Season 2 just finished. I didn't even fucking know it ended because the last episode wasn't a great send-off. And the whole season was just an unbelievable downgrade in every conceivable department that it leaves a bitter taste in my butthole. And the crazy thing about One Punch Man is the characters are so well written and the universe is so lively and fun that even though Season 2 was significantly worse than the first season in every way, it was still a good season. It was still enjoyable, which is fucking remarkable. So the difference between Season 1 and 2 comes down entirely to the studio that handled it. Season 1 had a whole bunch of freelancers work on it. They had a whole lot of new talent come in that really put their all into it to lead to such an extraordinary season. Season 2 was handed off to the fast food chain of anime called JC Staff. They do really suboptimal work, literally no passion. It's barely better than YouTube animators, and that's kind of why it's so bad. It's because the animation, if you can even call it that, half of the fucking season is just still images with a shaky cam. I swear to God, the first 2 episodes don't even have anything moving. It's just the camera with some fucking art they found on DeviantArt, fan art. It's fucking embarrassing, and it's really upsetting that Season 2 turned out the way it did. But before I get into everything wrong with Season 2, I want to talk about why you should watch Season 1 if you haven't already. Even if you fucking hate cartoons, animation, or even fun in general, you will still probably like the first season of One Punch Man. Even from a conceptual level, I think it is extraordinary. One Punch Man is about a man who is so incredibly powerful, the most powerful being that you could ever imagine in any form of media, and about his struggle to find fun, find a purpose. He wants to not kill things in one punch. No matter who he faces, no matter how strong, it always ends with a single punch. Now, on the surface, that sounds like it's boring because, well, every fight you know that he's involved in is going to end in a punch. The way they make up for this is by letting him get his ass beat. Well, ass beat, he doesn't ever really feel anything. That's the purpose. He's kind of jaded. He's lost because he's so strong. But he lets himself get slapped around, thrown around, so you can see how powerful his opponents are before finishing them in a punch. And he's surrounded by an incredible cast of villains and heroes that's set up in this universe where there's this hero association where heroes get ranked and they do heroic deeds, fighting villains, doing all kinds of shit. And they spend the majority of the time in the spotlight of the show. And that's a really good thing because they have this incredible cast of characters with these really fun powers. They're extremely powerful as well, but can't even come close to Saitama, the protagonist, One Punch Man. It's just so fucking fun watching them fight. Just everything about season 1 is an absolute joy to watch, and I can't recommend the first season of One Punch Man enough. And then you transition to season 2, and it makes you just want to puke. It's fucking disgusting how dirty they did the show. There is a clear lack of effort here. It looks like the entire studio just quickly did their homework to turn it in before class so the teacher didn't give them a bad grade, but they still got a bad grade because the homework was shit work. It's just a very clear disregard for quality. They didn't want to follow in the footsteps of the first season. They were never going to live up to the first season because of how much went into that, but they didn't even try to come close. It seems like they just went through the motion. They'd fall asleep behind the wheel and just get it done barely. It's just bad. It's really not good. Even if you're not going in there trying to nitpick, taking notes like a turbo virgin anime critiquer or something, you're going to notice how noticeably bad it is in comparison to the first season. Had the first season not been as good as it was, this would have been a lot more palatable. I don't think as many people would have cared, but they clearly showed what they could do with One Punch Man and where it could go, and then they come in here and turn it into a fucking PowerPoint presentation with almost nothing put behind it. There's also this over-reliance on CGI in Season 2, which wasn't there in the first season, and I don't think CGI in anime is all that bad. I think it can be used really well, such as in Demon Slayer. There's another modern example. But in here, the CGI looks straight out of a PlayStation 1 cutscene. They use CGI to save on cost, and it shows. It actually looks like origami strapped onto some of the characters with a lot of lights put on it. It's really dumb. They've completely redesigned some of the characters' looks. Genos looks fucking awful. Genos looks like an action figure I would have pulled out of a Happy Meal in the late 90s. It's just really dumb. It's upsetting because I loved the first season so much, and season 2 has a much better storyline. I think season 2's story, even in its shit form with JC staff, is still better than the first season's story. I like Garo. I really like all of the new characters they introduced and everything going on, the villain association. All of it is really good, but JC staff couldn't even bother to animate half this shit. In the first 2 episodes, you can immediately recognize a clear difference in the first and second season. The fights in the first 2 episodes alone in this season were actually just still images, as if a kid was holding up 2 pieces of paper with characters' faces on them and colliding them together. That's about the extent of the animation you got from the first couple of fights. And the CGI is glaringly bad, an eyesore, like an actual blemish on TV. It's just awful. It looks awful. The CGI they put in here is really, really, really bad CGI. It looks like I went in there in Maya and did some rendering myself for the show. That's how bad the quality is. And I only took a semester of Maya when I was a fucking sophomore in college like 5 years ago. It's really bad. But all that being said, it may look like shit, but again, the writing and the story is still so goddamn good that I can't help but enjoy it. And I will say it does pick up towards the end. The fights definitely get better towards the end, but not by a wide margin. They're not significantly better. They're not as good as the first fights. Even the best fight in season 2 is worse than just a throwaway fight in the first season where Saitama's walking home and then one punches a man who's a fucking hot rod come to life. That was more animated and more enjoyable than almost any fight in this entire season, though there were good moments such as Metal Bat vs. Garo, also Garo vs. Bang and Bomb. There were good moments, but it is just a massive letdown, and that's such a shame. I really hope, in 10 years when season 3 of One Punch Man comes out, I really hope they give it to a studio that gives a shit, and I hope JC staff doesn't get many more projects. They have totally lost me as someone that would support their animation studio. They're not even fucking animators. They're basically deviant artists that sometimes accidentally make things move minimally. If JC staff's name is on something, I'm just going to immediately assume the animation's going to be shit from now on, because this just left such a bad taste in my mouth. Plugging this shit into the moist meter, I'm giving 2 scores. The first season of One Punch Man is a 95%. I genuinely think that's a show that anyone, any age, and any taste can enjoy. There's something there for everyone, and it is absolutely gorgeous. Season 2, I'm giving an 80% to, and it's only because it is carried so incredibly hard by a fucking impressive story, cast of characters, writing, And also another complaint, the sound in season 2, they basically just loop the same goddamn sounds over and over again, the same songs over and over again. So I hope you really like the soundtrack, because you're going to hear it a million times if you suffer through season 2. In fact, bringing that into the equation, I'm lowering that shit. I'm bringing it down to a 70%, because now I just remembered how often they use it. I'm almost fucking blocked it out of my mind, but now that I'm thinking about it, it's genuinely anytime anything's on screen, you're hearing the same 4 songs repeated ad nauseum. So 70% for season 2, 95% for season 1. The show is still great, and I do think it's worth watching. But man, I hope whenever season 3 comes out, if the world isn't up in flames by then, I hope it's to a good studio that makes it with actual passion and quality again. And yeah, that's about it. So yeah. Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're looking at an anime that absolutely fucking slaps. It's called Demon Slayer. Even people who aren't fans of anime will find things to like about Demon Slayer and have probably heard of it because episode 19 was such a huge trend on the internet for a little while because of how beautiful the whole episode was. The entire show is that good. This season was made by a very talented studio called Ufotable, and even from episode 1, it was clear that they were coming with the condom off and nipple clamps on. A whole lot of work went into this season, and the passion really shows. The story revolves around a young man named Tanjiro, whose sister had been turned into a demon, and his whole family murdered by a demon, and now he's on a quest to turn her back into a human, and along the way he becomes a demon slayer, fights all of these incredible demons with these really cool powers, meets a lot of really cool characters, and just overall it'll have you smiling with a semi-chub in your pants. It is a show that doesn't really try and reinvent the wheel or anything like that. It's a very simple story you've seen a million times, but that doesn't take anything away from it. It still has its sad moments, it still has its characters that you really care about, and it's still just overall a really nice story, very well told. It's just nothing that you haven't seen before, and I'm totally fine with that. I don't think every story needs to be some type of landmark game changer that metaphysically challenges what we interpret to be storytelling as a whole. I love the story here in its simplicity and just how good all of the characters are in the story, and even how well some of the moments are executed. Even though you know what's coming, you know where things are going, it's still always fun to see it unfold. So I'm totally fine with the story being simple, and I see that as a complaint from a lot of people, but for me, I think it's a positive, because the storyline being the way it is sets up all of these really incredible moments with the characters, meeting enemies, humanizing some of the enemies, and it's just leading to some really unique exchanges and experiences. But by far the strongest part of this show is its visuals. My god, this show is beautiful. Even when characters are just talking or existing in this universe, it is so nice to look at. It has a very unique art style, and when there's action, it goes all in on animating it. And take, for example, One Punch Season 2. I mean, that shit is basically just a slideshow. Here, you get everything frame by frame. You get solid movement. You see the impact has some girth to it, some fucking meat on it. You feel the impact in its visuals, and it is just absolutely gorgeous. And especially that episode 19 fight that everyone talked about. They talked about it for a reason, because the whole thing is like your eyeballs' clitoris being stimulated for 30 straight minutes. It is just so nice to watch. And that's most episodes. When there is a fight, it's a treat. It is so fucking gorgeous. And that's very rare in anime these days, because a lot of the fights either rely on CGI to do the whole fight for them and it looks like straight asshole out of the PS2, or they do what One Punch Man Season 2 does, and they do basically a shaky cam and a still image to try and get the idea of a fight out there. And it's just garbage half the time. But here, a fight is something spectacular. Now, I want to make it clear, I'm not saying there's no CGI in Demon Slayer, because there absolutely is some CGI moments sprinkled throughout. However, it's not bad CGI. It's actually very good and very well done, with a lot of care put into it, so that way it doesn't suffer from what a lot of other anime suffer from when they use CGI, where it looks like trash, looks like straight asshole. Here, it complements the scenes pretty well and adds to them in some cases. So the CGI, when used, is not an issue in Demon Slayer, which is super nice, because almost 8 times out of 10, maybe 9 times out of 10, CGI just sucks shithole in anime. It really absolutely does. But not here, which is nice. Now, I do have a complaint about the season here, and it's just one specific thing that kind of constantly is there throughout the show. It's that when the characters have a certain trait or a quirk to them, they beat that shit to death. For example, one of the main characters, Zenitsu, his character trait is he's always afraid and crying and always yelling, screaming over the top. He also loves women's big anime titties, so anytime there's a woman on screen, he just melts down and goes ballistic. And yeah, it's cool the first couple of times it happens, but then you realize anytime Zenitsu's on screen, he's going to be doing that shit, just crying and screaming and going ballistic every single time he's on screen. After a while, it just gets so grating and tiresome. You just want a break from him being that embodiment of the trait. It's very rare where he is a badass, and there is moments where he has some badass shit with his thunder breathing, but you want more of him just being more mellow and more of just in line with the other characters instead of just this over-the-top committing to the personality quirk. And it's not just him. When they meet the other main characters, they all have their own personality trait. Like there's a love character, and every single time you see something from this love character, it's her saying, oh, that person is so cool, I think I might love them. Oh, I just love the way this character does this. Oh, I think I might be in love with them. There's another character that's supposed to be a forgetful one and zones out. And anytime you see him, the character's just going to be looking up at the sky. Oh, look at that bird. I wonder what kind of bird that is. Oh, look at that tree. There's a tree over there. And it's just every single time these characters are on screen, they're committing 100% of the time to their fucking personality quirk, as if they're just method actors that are never breaking character, and it's just tiresome. I wish they would give them a break from just being the embodiment of whatever title they were given, because it's cool in doses and it's fun and it's entertaining and humorous sometimes, but man oh man, does it get fucking tiresome. But that's my only real complaint. I still like those characters, I still think they're good characters, but it just becomes too much with them being the living embodiment and just saying and doing the same shit every single time. But anyway, that's the only complaint I have for the season, really. Everything else I think is remarkable. Even the music department, I think the score really complements a lot of the fight scenes and even just the hanging out scenes really well. I found that kind of jumping out to me during this, but I also have a bias to the kind of music this show has. It's just a really, really good show. It's a show that I'd recommend to anyone, not just anime fans, because I think it's just a really unique experience to see an animation like this in this day and age. So plugging Demon Slayer into the moist meter, I'm giving it a fat 90%. It has a lot. It is really, really nice, really great, and I really hope UFO Table comes back for a season 2 of Demon Slayer and doesn't pass it off to some trash studio like fucking JC staff who's just gonna murder it, take it out behind the barn and put it down in quality. But you know, only time will tell if they're going to make a great season 2. For now, we have an incredible season 1 of Demon Slayer and looking forward to more. That's it. So yeah. Dr. Stone I find to be an incredibly unique anime and just general show with an idea and premise I've never seen explored successfully in any medium. I fucking love Dr. Stone. The show is about an anomaly that occurs in the modern age that petrifies all of humanity, turning them to stone for thousands of years, 3,700 years. After 3,700 years, the protagonist named Senku wakes up, and Senku is like Google waking up. He has the accumulation of 2 million years worth of humanity's knowledge at his disposal. He's the preeminent prodigy of science. He knows everything there is to know about building shit and making shit. And what he wants to do is bring humanity back into the modern age, starting from literally nothing. Bare ass, naked, full asshole out, wants to bring humanity from that point all the way to the point where we've got television, porn, all of that again. It is an incredible show. It's like watching primitive technology, but across an entire show. In the beginning, he makes clothes out of leaves. He uses hammers and chisels made out of stones, where he's banging stones against other stones. He's using some of the same tools you see primitive technology using, where he's, twirling fucking twigs into the strings that he needs. It's really impressive, and all of what they show is accurate in terms of the science and the tools that they use and how they get to the point, the chemicals, the reactions, all of it is accurate. I knew some of it, I didn't know most of it, and I fact-checked that shit. I fact-checked that bitch constantly, just to see if I could point a finger and say, nope, you're wrong, you lied to me, this is wrong, and at no point did I ever come across that case. All of the science they show here and everything they make, they tell you how they do it, and it is all exactly how it is done. which I find to be impressive. When I first went into this show, knowing the premise, I thought I was going to be making a whole bunch of leaps and shit using magic, out of nowhere. One episode, Senku's got his cock and balls out because he's butt-ass naked after being unpetrified, and then the next episode he's got fucking Home Depot tools at his disposal, and he's using a power drill to set up the first RGB gaming keyboard. I didn't know it'd be step by step from ground zero, making the tools, then making the shit with the tools and building upon that foundation. And every step of the way, it was fascinating. It was genuinely educational in a very fun way. And as the show progresses, there's more and more characters that get introduced, and obviously none of them are up to Senku's level of understanding science. Some of them don't even believe science is a real thing because they're in this primitive world where there is no science, there is no technology, and Senku's the only one that can bring it back. So he's constantly explaining how the things work to the characters in the show, which in turn explains it to the viewer, which is really fucking cool. Teaching you how to make goddamn fucking, I don't want to spoil anything, but making some really impressive shit, teaching you how electricity and shit works. Like, it's really crazy. And over the course of the 24 episodes in the season, he goes from nothing to having some pretty impressive stuff at his disposal, and it doesn't feel at any step that it was a huge jump where all of a sudden he has nothing and now he has, as telescopes and space shuttles. They have everything in between that builds up to that point, showing you every step and teaching you every step how they got there, which I find great. It's never slow, it never drags, there's constant inventions, constant shit going on. I think the villain is also really well realized. I think it's a really cool villain. There's really nothing I didn't enjoy about this show. I can see why some people wouldn't like it and maybe find it boring, because it really is a show that is mainly about building characters and building shit, inventing things, and some people may not care about that. It's not like other animes in its category where you got constant sword battles, you got ass cheeks going against assholes in these constant fights, and there's a lot of action. That isn't here in Dr. Stone. There is action and there is scenes of fighting, but it's very scarce. It is mainly about these characters interacting with science, discovering things, and building things, all of which I think work really well in the context of the show and make it really thrilling and fun, and at times just downright gorgeous. If I had to nitpick one complaint, though, I felt towards the end of the season, things got a little bit too fast-paced, if that makes any sense. What I mean by that is they'd spend 5 episodes collecting one mineral or one chemical that they need for an invention. But then towards the end of the season, if they needed to invent something, they didn't have it. It only took them an hour or one scene to get it immediately and bring it back, and then they made the invention. Whereas that same task took them 5 episodes previously. So it just feels like at some point they just disregarded a lot of the grunt work that they were showing and a lot of the explanation that they were giving. Kind of like what Game of Thrones did with travel, where it took an entire fucking season for an army to march, and then in season 7 or 8 they could get there in literally 2 scenes. And I get why they kind of gloss over those scenes of them gathering what they need and explaining exactly how everything works. They focus more their explanations on the things that are extremely important in the show, and towards the end they just kind of gloss over a lot of the stuff. And I don't mind it that much because it would be kind of boring just to watch them go do more gathering that you've already seen, and then another explanation for something that you probably didn't really need to know because it's not going to be the most important component in the show or anything. So I get glossing over it for time. It's not that big of a deal, but it is something that does break the show's established rules of it's a lot of work to get these things, and here's how it all works. At some point you have to accept it's not a whole lot of work at a certain point, and they don't need to explain everything. And that's fine by me. Plugging Dr. Stone into the moist meter, I'm giving it a nice fat old 90%. This is probably my favorite anime of the year, but I imagine it'll be kind of divisive for people who either aren't into anime or only into a certain kind of anime, because it is very different. It is an extremely unique show. Some of the characters aren't overly unique in the genre, but overall the show itself has its own very niche identity. And I think it's great. I really, really enjoyed it from start to finish, and I can't recommend the show enough. Really fucking good stuff. What a fucking year for anime. Welcome to the Moist Meter. We're looking at another anime, Vinland Saga. This is an Amazon exclusive one, and it absolutely slaps. It is, again, another great anime to finish off 2019. It's the story of a Viking on a quest for revenge, and he travels along with the man who kills his father, hoping to kill him at some point. And it's a lot deeper than that, but that's the gist of it. It is such a well-written show with perhaps one of the best villains in all of anime. And it could even be argued that the main villain isn't even a villain. So Askeladd is who I'm talking about, and he is just beautifully written, an incredible character. He's at some times your comical mustache twirling, I will behead you for the sake of entertainment, ha ha ha, kind of villain. But then other times they give him so much depth to give context to that side of him, and it's just really impressive what they've done with that character. Thorfinn is arguably the protagonist, but it's hard to say because I also could say Askeladd is the actual protagonist of the season. It's just a really great dynamic between Thorfinn and Askeladd, and I think both characters are really, really strong, especially Askeladd. The whole season, I was worried it would drag, but at no point does the season ever drag. There is a lot of action, but there's also a lot of just characters scheming, talking, you getting to know the characters, their environment, their time period, their morals, their ideals. It's a lot of actual character development and depth as opposed to just Vikings ripping tits off and slicing cock. It is a lot more than I expected. And I also want to point this out. This is the first anime I've ever seen where I never skipped the intro, at least in the first one. Survive Said the Prophet did the intro for the first part of the season, and it's such a banger. That song absolutely bangs. I never skipped it because it was so good. I didn't care for the second song they used in the second half, so I started skipping it then. But when they were using Survive Said the Prophet, I was fucking bumping my fist to that shit every time. It was just a really, really great show, and I really enjoyed it. The animation was top-notch. When there was a fight, it was really well animated. I didn't think at any point that it felt cheap. There wasn't any times where it was, a still image with a moving camera, like One Punch Man Season 2 or some shit. It really felt very full of passion, and like they wanted to come out here and make something memorable, and I think they absolutely did. I think Vinland Saga is one of the strongest of the season. It's hard for me to say if it's the best of the year, because I really, really like Dr. Stone, and the new Attack on Titan was great too. I don't know, it's just a really, really great show that I highly recommend. And this is one of those that I'd recommend to people that don't like anime. It has great gory action with actual cool choreography in it. It has great character development and writing across the board. Sometimes it has some really goofy anime tropes, but I don't think it's that big of a deal, and especially with how scarce they are in this. It's just really, really enjoyable. I have nothing but compliments for Vinland Saga. That being said, I don't think it's like the best show ever made, but it's definitely one of the best of this year. It is really enjoyable, so plugging Vinland Saga into the moist meter, I'm giving this bad boy a fat 90%. Again, the only reason I wouldn't give it a 95%, I'm going to go ahead and justify that, is because I can see why people would maybe lose interest in the historical aspect that they try and capture at some points. Because, again, a lot of it is like there's this priest who just likes to get drunk and talk about love. I can see some people getting very turned off by that. So I can definitely see some negatives some would have. I didn't have any personally, but looking at it through other perspectives, I can definitely see some parts of this dragging for some people, because there is like 3 episodes of just straight walking across some terrain and characters talking about love and what it means to be a warrior, and to some people that's not the most entertaining thing in the world, but I think it is an extremely strong show that I enjoyed from start to finish, and I kept waiting week by week to see what the next unveiling in the show was. There's also a character, Thorkel, who has a lot of depth that you don't expect, because in the beginning he's just this giant fucking monster man that just seems devoid of all intelligence, but by the end of the season you see a lot of different sides of him, and he is a lot more than meets the eye. Great show. That's about it. So yeah. Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at My Hero Academia Heroes Rising. This is the second movie from the My Hero anime franchise, and the first one was great. This one's even better, I think. Now, it's not canon, and I'm of the firm belief if you're going to make something that's not canon, just go fucking hog wild with that shit. I don't care if it makes sense. Just make it fun and over the top as fuck. Bring in time-traveling space pirates. Have the main characters steal the fist of God. I really don't care, because it's not canon. Just make that shit memorable. And that's exactly what this movie does. I'll get the only negative out of the way about the movie. The narrative, it's weak. The narrative's not great, but what the narrative does is it allows the stage to be set to have every member of the class come in and showcase their talents and their quirks and have them work together, team up against these 4 new villains, which are all pretty cool. And I really like that they're bringing the class as the front row and center, because as the anime progresses, naturally they're dialing in on the main characters and focusing there, so you're seeing less and less of the side characters. So it's nice to have this movie bring them back into the spotlight and show you that, hey, You know, they're not useless. They can do some cool shit. I mean, a couple of them are useless, but for the most part, they can do some cool shit. And that movie shows it, and I love that. But the narrative, it's not great. It's really not, especially towards the end. Towards the end of this movie, they are really pulling some fat shit out of their ass. They're going 2 fists deep and just yanking as much shit out as possible. It's really fun, and man, that final fight is super beautiful to look at, but it makes no sense. And when they try to explain some of the nonsensical shit, it's weaker than a 20-year-old condom. It is just, by all definitions, some ass pulling, which is fine because it's not canon, comes with the territory, and it just showed you some really fucking awesome shit. So it's not that big of a deal that they don't have a real explanation or excuse for why certain things happened. But I mean, fucking Deku and Bakugo died 15 times in this movie. Spoiler alert. When you see them on screen, their death is soon to follow, but they always get brought back because explanations. I mean, that's an exaggeration, of course, but it really is very silly in that department, which I think is fine because it's not canon. As long as it's cool, memorable, and just an enjoyable experience, I think it really hits the marks that it's looking for. I do think if you haven't seen the show, there's really not a whole lot here for you because part of the fun of this movie is seeing those characters that you haven't seen in like 2 fucking seasons contributing again, doing cool shit again, and I really enjoyed that. I felt like the gang was getting back together, you know, getting back on the ice, ready to play a couple more hockey games here in the big league. So that was really enjoyable. Another complaint I did have, there's 4 new villains introduced in this movie, but only 2 of them have any stage presence at all. 2 of them are just thrown away almost immediately. There's 2 villains in that group that I think had 3 lines of dialogue and 5 minutes combined of screen time. So I just kind of wasted on those 2 because I think they were really cool and I think their quirks were pretty interesting that they didn't explore at all. They're just kind of used as a little fleshlight and punching bag tossed to the side, which I think is a bit of waste of potential. But the 2 villains from the group that did stand out really fucking stood out. They were really great, especially the main bad guy, 9. I think he was fantastic. Intimidating, menacing, and just a really great final boss fight. And that final fight lasts like 45 minutes. That's the bulk of this movie, is just the last fight, and it is beautiful every second of the way. And that's when all the heroes are really firing on all cylinders, doing some cool shit. I was very pleased with the movie. There is a lot you could pick apart, especially when you come to the narrative side of things and some of the decisions they made. But why the fuck would you? It's not canon in the first place anyway. So just let them have these explanations. I would have been totally fine if the way they excused it was at the end it was all a dream. I wouldn't have even fucking cared at that point. It was just a really enjoyable experience. The animation here and that final fight is gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. I'm a sucker for that kind of shit at the end where this climactic battle has like 9 different acts to it all over the course of 45 minutes. And then towards the final act, they just cut everything. And it's just ambient noise and music. I love that. I love that shit. Overall, very enjoyable. Movie was hype as fuck. Plugging this into the moist meter, I'm giving My Hero Academia, Heroes Rising, a nice 85%. Very good stuff. And it right in line with the show. The show's good, movie's good, so it's nice that they are both good together. Neither one of them stinky, which is fantastic. Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at Black Clover. It's actually been a little while since I've watched any anime, if you can even believe that, and I've had just kind of that empty feeling in my nutsack that only anime could fill. So I decided to check out Black Clover since it's been recommended to me quite a bit recently, which I find surprising because I remember when Black Clover first came out, everyone fucking hated it. I heard nothing but negative things about it. It was like Game of Thrones Season 8 for anime where everyone was shitting on it. So to see that it's turned around in such a big way, at least online, was surprising. So I definitely checked it out with an open mind and open legs, just spreading my cheeks ready to accept whatever I was about to watch. And I gotta say, it was good. I enjoyed it. Now, obviously, the worst part of Black Clover is its beginning. Like, the first 15 episodes are spent with the main character, Asta, just constantly screaming. And it definitely gets grating. And when I say screaming, I mean every time he opens his mouth, it's like you're listening to 2008 post-hardcore screamo music, like some fucking Silverstein shit or something. Every single time he speaks, it is yelling. It makes Dragon Ball Z look like child's play. The voice actor here has to have some superhuman vocal cords. He's like a fucking real-life X-Men with a mutation that gives him iron vocal cords to withstand all of this screaming. It is impressive, but also gets old kind of quick. Another thing I didn't really love right away was all the characters. I love the fact that they've introduced so many characters so quickly in the show. They give you like a very clear structure, like here's the upper echelon of powerful magic users, and here's all of these interesting characters that have these quirks. But one thing that I didn't like about it is how it falls into that anime cliche where if a character has a quirk or a little wacky thing about them, like, hey, I like birds, well, the only thing that fucking character ever does is talk about birds. They just become this embodiment of that one trait. For example, in this show, in the beginning, there's this character that really likes his sister. So anytime that character's on screen, he's talking about his sister, looking at a picture of his sister, jerking off to his sister, and just everything about him is sister-oriented. It just gets so tiresome. I really don't like that cliche. Demon Slayer did it too when they introduced all of those new characters towards the end where they all had something a little special about them, a little quirk. I don't like that. At least make the characters interesting from the get-go instead of just being like this fucking caricature for this one trait. I'm just not a huge fan of that. So there were definitely things in the beginning that I didn't like. A lot of people say how uninspired and lazy it is, how it just copies other things and borrows this and that from other things. And yeah, at no point does Black Clover ever really try and reinvent the condom. It just kind of very falls in line with generic shonen stuff. But it very unapologetically makes it the most shonen shit ever, just very geared towards action and really unrelenting cutthroat pace, which I think is fucking great. It takes all of these incredible things from the genre that you just like to see. Yeah, they're not the most creative or the most inspired, but having all of these elements from all of these other shows come in here, I think is really fun. It's constantly ramping up the stakes. It's constantly getting more powerful as, the power just continues to escalate. The tension continues to escalate. It's just a lot of really fun moments. There's just so many highs in this show that happen so often, it's hard not to enjoy watching it. Yeah, again, it is not the most creative of things ever made, but I don't think it needs to be either. It's not trying to make the wheel better or anything. It's just trying to take everything, put it in here into a nice, compact little fucking soup, and feed it to you. And it's a delicious little soup. I think it's a lot of good moments and a lot of really cool shit. And I really love the animation during its fights. I think it gets very creative in that regard. I like the way they portray a lot of the magic fights and a lot of the character interactions when it comes to like combat. So I don't really have like an issue with it not being a totally unique concept or unique in pretty much any area really, because it just takes all things that we enjoy and puts them into this one big pot here, this nice little cauldron of just shonen shit all packed in here. And it is enjoyable. And like I said, the beginning's not great. The beginning isn't the worst thing in the world, but it's not fucking great either. It is kind of a chore to get through like the first 15 episodes, but after that, it really finds its stride. It really hits its highs and it keeps going. It doesn't stop. Like I said, the pacing in here is great because it is constantly just full throttle, nuts to butts, just a ton of good action and shit. The characters also get better as well. The characters, you start to grow on you. You start to learn little nuances about the characters and, their relationships to one another. So the characters also get better. They don't stay just like this 2D cardboard cutout of, well, here's one wacky trait. This girl really likes to eat candy, and that's all she'll ever do is just eat candy. There's a lot more to it than that. So it does get better. But yeah, the beginning is rocky. And it's not like the best shonen ever made or anything, but it takes elements from the best shonen and puts it into its own format and its own little world that it's created. And I think it works really well. So I do think it's a show worth watching if you just want some, fun little action-oriented shit. It doesn't make you really think too hard. It's not going to have you sitting there in like profound thought with a, finger on your temple thinking, this is changing my worldview. This is very interesting. It's just going to be there like, holy shit, that dude's throwing some fireballs and hitting it like a baseball bat with a giant sword. It is just a really enjoyable show that does have some problems that I think a lot of people are going to roll their eyes at or, sigh when they hear it come up with just generic anime cliches and also some interesting decisions that I don't think play super well. I don't want to get into spoilers or anything. But anyway, plugging this into the moist meter, I'm giving Black Clover a clean 80%. I would recommend it just for something to watch if you're looking for some action and just some good animated fights and such. And some interesting characters that do get better if you just give them a chance to grow on you. So yeah. That's about it. Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at Tower of God, the new Crunchyroll original, and it is an absolute banger. I knew nothing about this going into it. It had a lot of hype surrounding it, but I just approached it limp-dickedly like, yeah, I'll turn it on. Maybe I'll like it. Maybe it'll be alright. And I fucking loved it. I absolutely loved it. By episode 3, I was hooked. It is a super unique show, not only in its concept, but in its presentation as well. The visuals are unlike anything I've seen before. It's like they took a fucking sketchbook and just animated that directly without like translating it to any other medium. It is stunning. I was a bit lukewarm on it initially because because I was like, wow, this is different, you know. I don't know if I like different yet. And then by the end of it, I was like, shit, maybe I'm gonna put some fingers in my butthole just to experience more different shit, because I fucking loved it. It really grew on me. And another thing about this show that just blew my tits off was the soundtrack. The soundtrack was so goddamn beautiful, I went out of my way to download most of it. And I had never done that for an anime before, except for Vinland Saga's first intro song, which was Survive Said the Prophet. That was the only other time. This one was so good, and I was not expecting anything like that. It has the most beautiful music that almost reminds me of the soundtrack to the first Nier game for the Xbox 360. Not Nier Automata, the one that came before it, the one that nobody fucking knows about and got spit on at the time of its release. That game had an incredible soundtrack, and it reminds me of a few of the songs in this show. It's just so good. So now getting into what the show is actually focused on, which is its story and its characters. I initially thought this was just going to be mainly action. You know, you'll have some blood and cum flying all over the place during some high octane battles, but that's not what you get with Tower of God, and you shouldn't expect it. The show is much more focused on telling you a very interesting story with really interesting characters that all have very unique relationships and pasts with each other as well. It's hard to explain because I'm trying not to spoil anything, because I think it's best to go into Tower of God totally blind and oblivious to it if you haven't already read it, because I think that was just the optimal experience. But in a nutshell, the story I think is super interesting. As the show continues for the 13 episodes that it has, you're getting more questions than answers. You're constantly getting new information that completely changes your perspective on what the tower could even be about. You know, what's at the top of the tower? What is even the purpose? What do these characters want out of it? And it's just constantly feeding you all kinds of interesting mysteries that have you thinking. And the characters are all very well written. I think all the characters are likable, and I think everything from like a character perspective and writing perspective is extremely tight. There wasn't any time where I was like rolling my eyes at any cliches or anything. I thought it was all just really well executed. I think the romance between Bam and Rachel is well explored with a lot of, you know, tragedy sprinkled in there. It's good. What I'm saying is pretty much everything they did with the narrative in the writing department, they fucking crushed it. They absolutely crushed it. And this isn't to say that there isn't action, because there is. There is scenes of action, and it is well animated and decent action, but it's nothing super special. In fact, I'd almost say the action in here is probably the weakest part of Tower of God. Every action scene's over almost instantly. You'll have two characters, sometimes more than two characters, engage in a conflict that's approximately like one move using some magical power, or one or two attacks that either get blocked or connect, and that's pretty much where it ends. Even when you have like a super powerful person squaring off against another super powerful person, it's pretty much just a one-sided slaughter where one of the people is just going to dodge everything and then just beat the shit out of the other person with a couple blows. So I don't think the action in the show is overly great. It's still nice. There's nothing wrong with it. I just don't think it's like a very big highlight of Tower of God. I think Tower of God really shines when it's telling you this story, and it's giving you background on these characters, and you're watching these characters interact with each other, and you're learning everyone's motive for even being at the tower. I think that's where the show's its strongest. It's actually pretty hard to talk about Tower of God because there is so many things that could be considered a spoiler about it, and I don't want to spoil anything at all. So I think the main thing you should know about the show is that the goal for every character is to climb this tower where if you reach the top of the tower, you become God. Everyone has their own reasons, and a whole bunch of shit happens to get there, a whole bunch of tests and everything, and it's fucking spectacular. Plugging Tower of God into the moist meter, I'm giving this bad boy a 90%. I think this is an extremely strong show. I think the only people that would really be disappointed with it are those that are used to like an 8-figure budget all spent on a single fight scene animated over the course of a year that lasts like 5 minutes on screen. That you're not going to get that level of like action scene craziness in Tower of God, so you probably will be a little let down in that department. But everything it lacks in that respect, it makes up for hugely in every other department about the show. I think it is really, really good, and I enjoyed the shit out of it. Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at the God of Highschool, another webtoon turned anime, just like Tower of God. However, unlike Tower of God, the God of Highschool doesn't rely on like a super deep story, at least for this season. It relies on some full throttle, nuts to butts, high octane action that's animated beautifully, but at the cost of like character depth and writing. So let's just go ahead and get to the best part of the anime, which is obviously its fights. Most of what you're seeing in this anime is fighting. When it's not fighting, it's like there's some dialogue that's being sped up with a fast forward button because it goes at an absolute breakneck pace. Everything in this anime seems to just want to get to fights as quickly as possible and then finish those fights as quickly as possible. It felt like I was watching a Tekken 7 speed run. It was just so fast. Like, there's an episode where in the beginning, a guy fucking spins out a car, proposes to one of the main girls, and then 30 seconds later, they're getting married out of nowhere, and then a fight breaks out at the marriage. It's just so much shit happens in such a short amount of time. And a lot of the first episodes are tournament, where it's 1 versus 1 in this showdown, and the fights will be over in like 20 seconds. You'll have like 4 fights per episode where there doesn't really seem to be any stakes or any like actual tension building up. They'll throw some beautiful choreography there for like 20 seconds and then it all ends in a single blow. And it's just left kind of a little unfulfilled, like a little kind of queef. And there is good moments where the fight does have a lot of tension and a lot going on and it does have a satisfying conclusion, but there's so many fights that you never really get to take anything in and they end so quickly. And there's just so much that goes on in these fights. There's just kicks flying all over the place, tits bouncing, more kicks flying, dicks getting broken in half. There's just a ton. And there's really not a whole lot of story elements that you get to take in and get the context of why this fight's even happening or what's going on. It just seems like it wants to move so fast that it neglects everything that's not a fight. But at least those fights look wonderful. The fights really do shine, because I mean, that's really what all the effort was put into, clearly. And I think that's fine. I still really enjoyed the God of High School, but it's not like there's a whole lot of actual meat on these bones here. It's just a lot of really fun fights to watch and just kind of turn your brain off and mindlessly enjoy. And that's not to say that it's completely absent of a story. There's a lot of story elements, but the problem is, since it's moving so fast, it's throwing like 1,000 things at you at once. All of a sudden, you're borrowing powers from the gods, and then all of a sudden, the god is coming down. God himself is coming down with Excalibur to destroy the planet in like what is a fucking swan dive straight down. And you're just left wondering, well, how did we get here? Why is this happening? 2 episodes ago, we were just watching some teenagers throwing jabs in a boxing ring. Why all of a sudden now is Galactus trying to eat the planet? It's just a ton going on all at once, and you just don't really understand why. All that you really get is a lot of fighting and a lot of questions with not very many answers. Maybe it sets itself up to answer those questions in a further season, but for here, it just becomes kind of a convoluted mess when it comes to its narrative. There's a ton of characters too. So many characters, but none of them, except for like maybe 2, have even the slightest bit of depth to them. Now, all this being said, it doesn't detract from my enjoyment of the God of High School. It is really unique in that it's able to capture such realistic motion of its characters. Every single move, when it comes to its martial arts, feels like real moves, like you're watching actual people doing martial arts against each other, except for a couple times when they're flying through the air, throwing like triple backflips, super kicks, and throwing their asshole in someone's face to finish them. But it feels like actual real martial arts captured in anime, and it's so fluid, and it's so brutal, like you can really feel the impact on a lot of the blows, and it's really, really unique in that aspect. Probably some of the best choreography I've seen recently from an action anime. It is absolutely a joy. The fights really are wonderful to watch, even if they do end in a single blow and aren't always a satisfying conclusion. Everything leading up to it is still an absolute blast. It's just really nice to look at. So, where I think what it wanted to do was just deliver these really unique fighting set pieces and great moments like that, and I think it absolutely succeeded and excelled. But if you're looking for a more complete package of like a story and characters with depth and, actual stakes and everything, you don't really get that in here. This right now, as this season stands, has mainly just been setting up a lot of questions and maybe answering them in the future, but giving you a really memorable ride with its top-notch animation and these incredible action scenes. So plugging the God of High School into the moist meter, I'm giving it an 80%. I really feel like just the biggest thing, the Achilles heel of the God of High School, was its pacing. It wanted to jam-pack so much, just fucking fully fist so much into 13 episodes, that it just kind of made everything too quickly. It was just, everything was too fast. And the power scaling ramped up so quickly. It'd be one episode, it's just standard slap boxing, and then the next episode, the entire universe is at stake with some crazy kind of magic where they're summoning an asteroid to wipe out the Lord himself. Like, there's just so much that happens, and it happens so quickly, you never really get to stay in one little power zone. Take, for example, something like Gurren Lagann. You don't really ramp up the power that quickly. Yes, it goes from being underground to being fighting in the space, throwing galaxies at each other, but you spend a lot more time gradually building up to there. Here, you make that leap in a single episode. So it just moves a little too quickly for its own good, but man, it is a fun fucking ride just watching these incredible fights, and I'm excited to see more from it. I really do hope that it does have another season, and it maybe expands upon the narrative, and just give more fucking awesome fights, because there's really nothing else like the God of High School when it comes to its fights that I can think of off the top of my head. The animation is just absolutely superb. Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at ReZero, both Season 2 and Season 1, since Season 1 actually predates the Moist Meter, if you can even believe that. I know the Moist Meter is like as fucking ancient as the Tree of Knowledge back in the Garden of Eden, but it's been so long since the first season of ReZero that Moist Meter wasn't even around back then. So I'm just going to be taking a look at both of them briefly here, because I think ReZero is hard to talk about to someone that hasn't seen it without spoiling certain things about it. I really think this show is a must-watch for anyone that likes anime, or just even good storytelling. And if you like anime, you're probably already jerking off to the mini waifus in ReZero, or you're already watching the show constantly, glued to it, because everybody is. ReZero is like French fries. Everybody loves French fries. The show is just so goddamn good. In a nutshell, if you're unfamiliar with it, ReZero is about a guy who gets transported from the normal world into this new, wild, magical world, and he has a magical power of his own called Returning by Death, which sounds like the title to a Bullet for My Valentine album. Returning by Death is when the main character, Natsuki Subaru, dies. He reloads a checkpoint, and these checkpoints change throughout the show, so it's time looping. He time travels. When he dies, he comes back to a predetermined checkpoint that not even he's entirely certain of, because he doesn't know when they change, he doesn't know what's going to be counted as a checkpoint, so he's always left in the dark there. But he does get these checkpoints, and then he's able to loop time and start piecing together things about why he died, how to change that, how to save the people around him, and he goes through this horrifying cycle of dying and repeating constantly, just this absolutely nightmarish cycle with really brutal deaths. Natsuki Subaru gets absolutely brutalized, split in half, eaten alive, disemboweled, have his asshole ripped out of his asshole, have his fucking asshole ripped out of his mouth. Like, all kinds of bad shit happens to Subaru directly, and all the people around him face some of the most horrifying deaths. And it's up to him, using this power of time looping, to try and stop that from happening and to fix the things around him, save himself, save others. And it's through this time looping, this death cycle, that you really get to see so many sides to the characters. The strongest part about ReZero to me is definitely the characters, because you see them in so many different ways. For example, you'll meet a character one way, and then Natsuki Subaru dies, or the character dies, and he kills himself to reload his checkpoint so he can save them, and then you see them in a totally different way because he changes his approach and how he meets them. So you see one time where he meets a character where he's like a big hero, like he punches a bad guy, saves the girl, and you get to see her, how she responds to that there. But then Subaru dies and he has to do it all over again, and this time he doesn't become a big hero, and he just kind of meets her as a stranger, and you get to see how she responds to that. There's just so much thanks to this returning by death cycle, because you get to see so many sides to a character in all of these situations, and it's just so very well explored. The cause and effect in ReZero is absolutely wonderful. You can tell there is a lot of care given to each and every choice made in the show, and I really love what goes into solving a lot of these puzzles that Subaru faces. How does he save this character? How does he save himself and save this character? Is there even a way to do both? And he comes up with plans and comes up with ways to convince the people around him without telling them that he time travels, because he can't tell anybody about returning by death. There's a curse, and there's consequences if he does. And it's just such an enjoyable anime. There was never a point in either season so far where I was bored or uninterested, because the characters are so strong. There's a big cast of characters. It's a wide array of different characters. And Natsuki Subaru is the central one, who over time gradually starts to change and become really fleshed out and deep. He starts as just like a pretty simple character, But through all of these deaths, after dying hundreds of times, dying more times than fucking Prometheus getting punished by Zeus for giving fire to humans, he starts to change and he becomes this really, really deep, interesting character, at least in my opinion. I really think he's a very strong character, and it's just really impressive how they explore the horror elements of all of these deaths, and he's killed himself multiple times, which never is easy. At no point does he ever just say, I'm killing myself because I need to go back to the checkpoint, because he doesn't know where the checkpoint is. He doesn't know for sure. And it's just a really hard thing to do for him to kill himself. You know, that's not like an easy thing in any situation, no matter the cause or no matter the reason. So him making that ultimate sacrifice to try and save somebody close to him or undo something that's happened in the present, it's always very powerful, and they never let that go. It's never just something easy like, Natsuki Subaru missed out on PS5 pre-orders, so now he kills himself so that way he can go back to his previous checkpoint and get in line a little bit quicker. It's always like the absolute last resort when things really got fucked up. Subaru makes that ultimate sacrifice to try and go back to the checkpoint that he thinks he has and just do it all again and try and get the right ending and the one that he wants. It's just really fucking good. It truly is. The animation is gorgeous. Characters are super well-rounded with a lot of depth. The storytelling is magnificent. It's always interesting. Love the concept. Loved how they explore cause and effect. I love the plot, the overarching enemies. Everything is just so beautiful. I think ReZero definitely is a must-watch. There's nothing negative I could even say about it that I can think of off the top of my head. The only thing that I think some people find disappointing is it's not like... Hey, girls. Look, my dogs are even getting excited talking about ReZero. It's not a show that's filled to the brim with nuts-to-butts action. There's not going to be a whole ton of fights per episode. In fact, there's not a whole lot of fights in general. There's a lot of, like, death and gore and shit, but there's not a lot of, like, actual fighting. It's not going to be like... You know, God of Highschool where you're having 4 fucking fist fights an episode. You'll go like 6 episodes without anyone throwing a punch or using any magic at all. It's mainly about the storytelling and problem solving, cause and effect, using returning by death, learning more about the characters, how to persuade people to your side, how to get this goal accomplished through words and actions without actually having like these big fights with the villains. And I feel like some people might find that disappointing if they watch anime just for like those flashy fights, because there's not a ton of those. There are fights in here, and when there are, they are very enjoyable and very good. But it's not the biggest selling point here. There's not a ton of that, and I feel like some people might be a little turned off by that. But for me personally, that was no issue at all. I'm plugging ReZero into the moist meter. I'm giving this bad boy a nice 95%. I think this absolutely lives up to the hype. You've definitely heard of ReZero before, and I think it's for good reason, because it really earns that reputation. It's an incredible show. It's extremely entertaining. It is extremely well put together, thought-provoking, and just really well executed on all fronts. I fucking love ReZero. So yeah, that's about it. So yeah. Today I'm going to do something I don't normally do and get a little experimental. I'm not talking about anal. I'm talking about doing a moist meter for a show that is still running. Typically I wait until the conclusion to moist meter a show, but for Promised Neverland, I'm just going to do it now. And that's because this new season of Promised Neverland is so incredibly disappointing that I just feel compelled to talk about it right away. I didn't watch season 1 when it was airing, so I went back and watched it over the last week, and it was extraordinary. Promised Neverland Season 1 was absolutely spectacular. I see why it was Ludwig's favorite anime, and now he's probably fucking punching air with how dog shit Season 2 is. It is bad. Like, I'm not exaggerating, it's just not good. It's kind of like in Prison Break, how they break out in the first season, spoiler alert, and then it still continues for like 9 fucking seasons of them breaking out 10 more times or some shit. It's like that, where once they break out, it's all downhill. Season 1 focuses on them leaving the farm. Now, once they've done that, it feels like a show that didn't know where to go with it. I think it has a great universe. You know, I still like the universe of Promised Neverland. Even in Season 2, I think it's very interesting. But it's just so poorly executed. It feels like after Season 1 ended, all of the characters that were really smart got hit with a fucking stupid ray. Because, like, none of the characters are making great decisions anymore. They're not really out-thinking anything or coming up with solutions to problems. They're just getting lucky and having a lot of very convenient encounters, like with friendly demons. Like, it's just not good. Season 1 was built upon outsmarting a world that was entirely against them, this mysterious universe where they are the hunted and they're trying their best to escape. Like, it's fucking... baffling how it could end up in the state that it is right now. We're 5 episodes deep, 6 episodes deep, and it's just not getting any better. And it's jumping around so much. For instance, from episode 4 to 5, a year passed. At the end of episode 4, they were escaping from a threat, and in episode 5, a whole year has passed, and they're now doing other things. I'm trying not to spoil anything, and it's hard to talk about why it's bad without spoiling anything, so I'm doing my best, but I think if you sat down and you binge Promised Neverland, once you got to season 2, you would notice an immediate fucking decline, like GME stock. Like, it has gotten terrible, and rest in peace, GME. Hopefully there's a second wind at some point, and maybe the same could be said for Promised Neverland, but it is just not looking like it. And even it... It's so hard to go into why it's so bad without giving any spoilers, but it really is just sad to see. Now, I understand the manga had a less than satisfying conclusion for most of the readers, so when they said they weren't going to follow the manga and do like an anime-only storyline, I wasn't too upset because I was hoping it'd be like a good ending. I mean, they gave themselves another fucking chance to make a good ending, and they've made it even worse. Most readers agreed that after leaving the farm, it went from like mediocre to bad. It wasn't great. The only good arc was called Goldie Pond, whichever the fuck that is, whatever that means, because I haven't read the manga, and the anime has completely skipped it. They've skipped like 50 chapters worth of information and characters that are just completely gone from the anime, which is disappointing because apparently Goldie Pond kind of slapped, like it was pretty good, and it's just not here in any capacity at all. And instead we've jumped 1,000,000 miles an hour, going fucking Mach 5 down this awful, awful path that Season 2 is taking us. It's a shame. Because Season 1, I can't stress enough, I would highly recommend watching Season 1, and then just pretend that, you know, everyone lived happily ever after, and it just ended there. That was the end of Promised Neverland when Season 1 concluded. Because, man, it was so good. It was such a fucking banger. There is constant tension, constant changing, and constant need to think hard and make really impossible decisions to escape the farm. I can't suck Season 1's dick enough. I loved Season 1 of Promised Neverland, and I couldn't be more disappointed with Season 2, which is why I wanted to just make the moist meter for it now, because I don't know how they could salvage this corner that they're writing themselves into with Season 2. So just plugging Promised Neverland into the moist meter, I'm giving it a 70%, and the only reason it's that high is because of Season 1. Season 1 is excellent, Season 2 is not good. It's pretty bad. I don't understand what happened. I guess all of the characters, after they escaped the farm, started drinking stupid juice out of a river nearby or something, because it's like it's not even the same fucking characters anymore. No one is coming up with good ideas, and for some reason they're ignoring really, like, obvious and important problems that are presenting themselves, it seems. Again, I can't fucking talk about it because it's a spoiler, but I think if you watch it, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's just really, it's such a letdown. It's a huge letdown. It really is. But Promised Neverland, Season 1, highly recommended. I'm doing it again, baby. I'm dropping my pants and I'm hitting you with the truth. It's a moist meter for a show that's still going on. This is only the second time I've done it. The first time was for the Promised Neverland due to disappointment and disgust with Season 2. This time, I'm doing it for Jujutsu Kaisen, and for a totally opposite reason. I am so fucking blown away by how enjoyable Jujutsu Kaisen is that I just want to do the moist meter now, so that way you can watch the show and catch up before it ends in a couple weeks. This show is extraordinary. I would argue that this is the best shonen can get. It is every episode better than the last. The action is absolutely beautiful. The visuals in this show are outstanding. You know, a lot of times when there's action in a show, it'll typically be like 2 frames of action and then just the camera moving around or they stop to talk. In Jujutsu Kaisen, you'll get 30, 45 seconds, minute, 2 minutes of just pure high-octane, nuts-to-butts action, full throttle. It never slows down when there's a fight, and there's so many fights. Like, imagine Demon Slayer episode 19, but stretched across the entire show. Like, every single episode of Jujutsu Kaisen is just as good as Demon Slayer's episode 19, which fucking blew up Twitter when that episode aired. Demon Slayer is still incredible, still a huge fan, but I would say Jujutsu Kaisen in the action department is even better. And now, I'm not just a fucking caveman who likes to see, you know, fists flying and titties all over the place. I can also appreciate good characters, which Jujutsu Kaisen has. Now, they're not the deepest characters. I don't want anyone to be misled here. You're not going to go in there, hear a character's backstory, get a tear in your eye, and then have, like, a moment of self-reflection on your own life. It's not, like, the most thought-provoking, deep shit. But the characters are really fucking cool. Every character is so badass. They each have their own cursed energy techniques and all this shit. In a nutshell, the show is about curses and the people that fight curses. And the users of cursed energy all have their own unique traits, and they're all fucking cool. Like, one of the characters is a goddamn panda that just beats ass, has multiple attacking forms. It's like some shit out of Tekken. It's just, every character is so fucking cool. My favorite character is Todo, who's just this massive, muscular meatball monster man who just loves women with a big ass, and he believes that any man that likes tall women with a big ass are like his best friend. And he's just fucking cool. Like, everything in this show, like, I don't know how else to describe it. Mappa is the studio behind the animation, and they've just done an incredible job of making every single aspect of the visuals just incredible. Every single fucking frame is a masterpiece in Jujutsu Kaisen. I don't know how they do it, because they're not even, like, compensating with CGI, or if they are, it's not noticeable. I haven't noticed any fucking CGI whatsoever. It's crazy what they're doing with Jujutsu Kaisen. If you haven't started it yet, you absolutely should. If you like action or shonen, it's super good. I really do think it's as good as shonen can be. Every episode has some crazy fucking battle in it, it feels like. There's only like a couple episodes I can even recall where there wasn't a huge fight that broke out in there. I mean, it's so good. Like, it's so fucking good. Again, I don't want anyone to go in there expecting some kind of narrative masterpiece that's gonna have you, like, fucking blown back in your chair, hanging on every word and every breath. But the story's fine, and the pacing is good enough where it just gives many excuses to have a ton of fucking characters encounter each other and just put dick in ass and go full on. So I have no problems with the narrative. I've seen a lot of people complain about it, how it's, like, simple and predictable. But who gives a fuck? Like, it doesn't matter if it's simple and predictable if it's executed well, which I think it is. And it allows so much cool shit to happen. Like, there's nothing I dislike about Jujutsu Kaisen at all. It's also complemented by a really good score. I think the soundtrack to the show is really fucking hype. Anytime there's anything going on, you've got, like, this beautiful crescendo that makes me want to stand up and start lifting weights to be like Todo. Like, I mean, it's cool. Like, I really can't think of any other ways to describe this that don't make me sound like a middle school boy hitting puberty just talking about how something's dope, but it really just is. It's something you can sit back and just be super entertained by. So I'm just going to plug Jujutsu Kaisen into the moist meter now. I'm giving it a 90%. Now, the only reason I'm not giving it a 95%, which I've explained in the past, I usually save 95% for shows I think really innovated or changed something in their genre. I don't think Jujutsu Kaisen has done anything like that, but I genuinely think it is as good as shonen can be without completely reinventing the condom of the genre. I really think that Jujutsu Kaisen reaches the highest possible level of the genre. I think it is so fucking good, and I have nothing but praise for the show. I totally agree with it winning Anime of the Year because it deserved it. It is something special, and I wanted to make this moist meter before it ends because I really think all of you who haven't seen it should give it a try. I'm often asked, like, what anime would I recommend to someone that either hasn't watched anime or just fucking hates cartoons in general. First of all, I don't know why you'd even ask me for an anime if you just fucking hate animation, but I get that question a lot anyway. This would definitely be one of the shows I'd recommend. This is a show I feel like anyone can enjoy, even if you don't like anime, don't like cartoons. It is just so good that I think regardless of your taste, you would probably find something to like about the show. So I really think Jujutsu Kaisen is something wonderful, and I'd highly recommend it. Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're looking at Season 2 of Re:Zero. Happy to say this shit absolutely banged. I don't think there was even a single episode that wasn't good in the season. There was highs and pretty much no lows that I can recall off the top of my head. And Subaru, I mean, the dude is like what every Redditor wishes they were. Like, he is a Redditor's wet dream. In this season, every fucking female character he talks to falls in love with him. And falling in love is an understatement. Some characters are just throw away everything they ever believed in for hundreds of years because Subaru's so fucking cool and they want the chance of being like a waifu to Subaru. It's crazy. I mean, this is like Super Seducer 3, the anime character. Shit is wild. And it all, in the context of the show, it's not like he's just like cheating. He's not using, game facts cheat codes. Like, it doesn't feel unearned or that it comes out of nowhere or it's just like some convenient plot device that he's an irresistible Adonis. At no point does it feel like it's silly or out of place because it's really well done where these characters bond throughout so many episodes across multiple timelines. For those that don't know, and I'm sure if you're watching this, you already fucking know what ReZero is about, or have already seen it and just want to make sure that I also agree the show is great. But the show basically follows Subaru, who has the ability to respawn. He's pretty much a video game character. He dies, he gets checkpoints, so he respawns there. So he gets to try different ways of progressing in this world. That's the easiest way of breaking it down. Obviously, it's not like a video game or anything, but that's the easiest way to explain it. And Subaru, when he dies, he starts over from this checkpoint, and he builds more relationships. He's constantly evolving these relationships with the characters around him. So you see so many different sides of these characters, and you see them growing together. Now, to those characters, they don't get that because they only know Subaru in whatever timeline he progresses in without dying. But to the audience, you really get to see these things, and it all really, it weighs on you. It really works super well. So in this season, when he is winning over so many characters that for fucking 20 episodes, 30 episodes, he's been building these relationships, it's a really nice payoff that doesn't seem like it's unearned or out of place, so it works really well. ReZero is just one of those rare shows that is extremely hyped and lives up to the hype for the majority of people that watch it. Even the most die-hard anime snobs who wouldn't watch an anime with more than 10 people that have ever even heard of it can appreciate ReZero, and they constantly jerk off about ReZero. Despite the hype and despite trying to be the hardest anime hipsters, you can't help but like the show if you watch it. It is just a really good and interesting show. It's one that I can't really talk about too deeply without spoilers, which was also the problem I had when I reviewed it 5 months ago after part 1. But now that part 2 wrapped up, I wanted to get into it a little bit deeper. One of the focal points of the season was conquering the past. In the trials that Amelia goes through, she has to face her past. And that was really cool to see, to learn a lot more about this character, and then she grows from it and becomes a very strong character moving forward, who's completely different from the Amelia we've seen for the last 30 whatever episodes. Like, she is completely changed now and evolved and is a much better character. I already liked her before, and I like her even more now after Season 2, Part 2. You also explore a lot of Roswell's past, which tells you more about who he actually is, what his real goals are, and shit like that. I'm trying my best not to spoil things again, but you learn so much about these characters through their past, which was a big part of this season. You learn a lot, and I really appreciated that. They fleshed out the characters even more. Even though they were already very deep characters, they went even fucking deeper. Full-blown colonoscopy on these characters. I really feel like I know the ins and outs of most of them now. It's just such a fucking good season. There's also great action as well. This will be a minor spoiler. There's an attack on the mansion, and Subaru has to figure out how to both save the sanctuary and the mansion. And the fight at the mansion is fucking nuts. There's so many moving parts that you got fucking blood, guts, bowels, and titties flying all over the place. Vampires. I mean, there's a lot going on. Like, even if you're just there for the action, which ReZero isn't really known for, like, its over-the-top action, but there is good action in it. Even if you just want action, you do get it in the season. You get some really good shit, especially with the mansion content. And even outside of that, there's still other fights. A very interesting fight in the sanctuary. Really hard to talk about these without spoilers, but I'm trying. Anyway, it's good. It's good. All around, this is just as good as every other season of ReZero, if not even a little better at points. ReZero Season 2, Part 2, the whole season, fucking great. Plugging this into the moist meter, it's another 95%. This show is holding the quality. It's holding the great writing. It is just an absolute banger. The show slaps hard as fuck. Highly recommend it. And yeah, that's about it. Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at Attack on Titan's final season. I think this show is going to be up there with some of the big anime greats. This is a show that everyone talks about. It's one of the few shows that pretty much trends on Twitter every single new episode that airs. It's a show that has captured a lot of people, and rightfully so. I think it's a very unique show. Its storytelling, albeit at times a bit weak, is still overall really enjoyable. It tells a really compelling and interesting story. And I know that's like a controversial thing to say, but I really do think Attack on Titan has one of the better delivered stories in modern anime. I was pretty much glued to every fucking episode this season, getting answers to questions that we've had for years. Felt amazing. Watching, there are going to be a few spoilers here. I'm not going to spoil the whole season, but a few things I'm going to need to touch on for the review. Watching Eren's transformation into the big bad villain that he has become, a heartless fucking ruthless man, has been really wild. I followed the show every single time it's aired since it began. Season 1, I watched it week by week for the entire season 1, same with 2 and 3 and now 4. So I really feel like over the course of fucking almost, 8, 9 years now, it's really been kind of growing with the characters, and seeing where they've been ending up in the final season has been absolutely wild. I think they've done a great job with developing a lot of these characters and really making you care, and even taking them down paths where you feel really bad for them, or there's just a lot of things that I think they've done great with its cast of characters and its overarching universe. The biggest change this season is, of course, with Eren. Eren has become like the fucking boogeyman of Attack on Titan. If you don't eat your vegetables, your parents tell you Eren Yeager is gonna visit you. Like, he has become an actual evil person. He's done some fucked up shit, murdering children for the sake of furthering his own goals. It's absolutely a huge change from the character that we've grown to know and love over the years. But I think it's a change that makes sense. I really think Eren ending up where he is right now is a natural development for the character. So I'm totally fine with him becoming a fucking cult leader of the Jaegerists, leading this crazy militia and that's doing their own thing, going against the grain here and going against their island. I'm trying not to get too deep into spoilers, obviously, but it's very huge change from the old Eren, and I think it's done really well. And I think it's very brave to take your main character down this path, because you risk people not being satisfied. You risk people being turned off by it, because I love the character how he was. So the fact that you've evolved him into something different is a big risk that I think a lot of shows are afraid to take, but I'm glad Attack on Titan does go down this path. There's a lot of moving parts to the Attack on Titan universe, and I like that. I really like how they balance all of these things and they deliver a really compelling narrative. And on top of that, Attack on Titan has really great action. Every time Levi's on screen chopping up Titans, it's fucking beautiful. He's doing some crazy acrobatic maneuvers with his mobility gear, going fucking wild. The show, I think, just has it all. There are weaker moments in the series. I can't in good conscience say that this show is perfect, because the only thing perfect is anything Brendan Fraser is in, and Brendan Fraser does not appear in this series, so I can't say that it's perfect and flawless, because there definitely are moments where you'd roll your eyes, or maybe you just get confused, or maybe the exposition dump goes on a little too long. Attack on Titan does have a few episodes where it is pretty much just exposition between two characters, or even just in the head of one character. There's a lot of moments in the series like that might turn people off if they're not drawn into the universe. But I really think overall Attack on Titan is an extremely solid show that lives up to the hype that it receives. I don't think it's overrated by any means. I know there's a lot of those big fucking Twitter hipsters. It's overrated. In fact, you should be watching this show that was made by a 4-year-old in Microsoft Paint. This is the better anime. I know there's a lot of that shit, but I really think Attack on Titan is up there with the hype. I don't think many people will be let down by the show. If you start it and get to the final season, I think there's a big payoff in watching where it is all going. I've really been blown away by the final season. I think it's been great. A lot of people were whining about CGI. The CGI is in Season 4 more than previous seasons, but it's not bad CGI. It's not janky Nintendo 64 cutscenes. It doesn't take you out or make you puke or make it any worse or anything like that. It doesn't detract from the enjoyment. It's put sparingly in places where there needs to be some movement, but they didn't have time to capture it with the full passion they've done with the other scenes in the show. So yes, the astute observer with a galaxy brain will notice some CGI in the season, but it really shouldn't ruin it for you. And if it does, I don't know what the fuck to tell you. You need to seek some help or something. It's pretty trivial. It's not consistent and constant and horrible, terrible, awful dog shit CGI. It's fine. So that shouldn't really be a chief complaint of the season. It's definitely not for me. The fight in Marley, I thought, was one of the best in the entire series. The entire Marley arc with Eren that is infiltrated, I thought was some of the hypest shit I've seen in the show. I think it was absolutely fantastic, executed beautifully with some really intense moments. Another thing I saw a lot of people whining and complaining about was Gabby as a character. And that's because Gabby does something I'm not going to spoil, but Gabby does something that a lot of people, fans of the series, didn't like. And I don't think it was bad or done poorly or anything. I actually think Gabby's a pretty strong character. She's like Eren's younger version, but from Marley. She's very similar to how old Eren was. The only thing that she thinks of is death to her enemies. Bringing death and destruction is the only way to be saved. Not too dissimilar from Eren. I really think Gabby was a very strong new character they introduced. Falco, I'm not too big on at the moment. He's not like a bad character or anything, but he just hasn't really had a chance to shine. I'm sure he probably evolves into a better character and a more important one later on, but for now he just seems like someone that gets fucking used as a fleshlight by everybody because he's the only one that seems to have a heart in the show. So right now, Falco doesn't really serve a purpose other than just get fucked up and used. But really, I just don't think there was a single bad moment in Season 4 at all. The only time where I found myself a little uninterested was when they were going over the Tibers, and that's only because they had just introduced this character and then exposition fucking diarrheaed about his past. But I ended up still liking him when he was on stage, delivering a really important narrative piece about the history of the Titans. Like, it was really illuminating. It revealed a lot of important information. But that's like the only nitpicky one episode that I can even say had a slow part at all. Everything else I thought was great. I really, really was blown away by Season 4. If you've watched the show up until this point, I can't see how you'd be disappointed with Season 4. It's just fucking great. The only thing that I can maybe understand people being a little let down by is the fact that they're not out there just peeling dick off of Titans anymore. Like, they're not killing fucking thousands of Titans or getting killed by thousands of Titans like they used to. They've clearly mastered the art of killing Titans, and they're not as much of a threat like the just normal, standard, vanilla, bland, missionary-only kind of Titans. You don't see a whole lot of those being a threat like they used to be, and for some people, maybe that's a turnoff, but for me, I think it's a great evolution of the series. They've been fighting these things for fucking years. They've really learned a lot about the world in Season 4, so now the biggest enemies they face are other humans, as well as how these humans are using the Titans that are on their side. And it's just, I really, really, really fucking love Attack on Titan and the direction that it took. I couldn't be happier with the series. Plugging Attack on Titan into the moist meter, I'm giving it a 90%. I really think this show is extremely strong, albeit, yes, there are flaws. I just can't imagine someone that doesn't at least enjoy the show. You know, maybe there's a few things you don't like about it, but overall, it's hard not to like the show. I think it's fucking beautiful. I think it is really well done, and I think it has a really unique story that it's telling in a very great way. So I'm a huge fan. Attack on Titan final season is an absolute banger, and yeah, that's about it. Holy shit. The Demon Slayer movie absolutely slaps. I had high expectations of this movie going into it, and they were exceeded. Let's just get right into it. So first of all, as you would expect, the movie is absolutely beautiful, just truly stunning animation. The first 25 seconds of the intro, I thought I went into the wrong theater because it looked like it was live action. The shit was gorgeous. Every single scene is a masterpiece. It is so good, and I really think seeing it in a theater really helped the experience because there's so much hype in this movie. This movie puts the throttle to the fucking floor and never lets up. This thing turns the bidet on full power and just blasts your asshole off with hype. It is extremely exciting at every point in the movie. Once you hit the second half, it never slows down for even a second, and it is such a gorgeous journey. Every fight, every single movement of the character, every attack is beautiful. I love the way they play with color in the movie. I can't even explain it. It's just so wonderful to look at. Just an orgasm for the eyes to process. It's so much passion clearly put into the animation here to make it look like this that I'm so happy to see be appreciated by so many, because this is on another level. This shit is absolutely next level animation. I fucking love it. There is CG. Right there, that's going to turn people off, I know, but I think the CG's used just fine. It's not glaring or fucking terrible. There is a bit of jank to it occasionally, but it's not like it's that big of a deal. It doesn't take you out of it or ruin the experience, especially when everything is as good as it is in this film. It's not anything that should be like, taking a gold star off of its report card because there's CG in the movie. It's not that big of a deal, and I already know people are going to make a big deal out of it when they see it. It's fucking fine. Just accept it. Stop looking for things to get angry about on Twitter. It's good. It's fucking beautiful. I can't praise the animation enough. Demon Slayer always gets credit for how beautiful it is, and for good reason, because it is truly incredible. And this movie amps it up to the next level. It is so good visually. So now let's get into the story. So this is an actual canon movie. My big complaint about anime movies and why I typically don't even bother seeing them is because they have no effect on the actual anime at all. It has absolutely no effect on the lore or the universe or anything for the most part. Like the My Hero movies have so little to do with the actual show. It's just so separated that it feels meaningless. It's just empty calories. Yeah, they're cool to look at, but what's the point when it doesn't really have much of an impact at all? This is extremely important. Everything that happens in this, it picks up right where the season ended off, and it continues the story, and then it gets you to the next point where it's clearly going to pick up on the next season. All of it is very important, canon, a very meaningful journey that has a lot of weight to it with a lot of important shit that happens, and I think that's extremely good. Because then it doesn't feel like you went on this journey that'll never be talked about or referenced or have any impact on the show. You got to go through this beautiful adventure and get to see where it all leads into the next season. It's great. So the story covers like a small arc in the manga, and I think this was the right call. I am so glad they decided to just condense that arc of the train into a movie instead of just making it like 5 or 6, 7 episodes in a season. I much prefer this because I think it worked really well. Yes, there wasn't a whole ton of time that you could devote to building up the Rengoku character, but I think they did an incredible job with the amount of time they had. By the end of the film, you fucking loved Rengoku, and you got to see a Hashira going all out. So I think they did the right thing here by taking that and turning it into probably one of the most hype anime movies I've ever seen. It was so enjoyable. So I don't think it was a bad call. I know some people said they'd prefer if they had just made it like in a season, made episodes for it to build it more, but I think this was much better. It allowed it to be much more fast-paced, and it still made you care for the characters and got you to where they wanted you to be in the story. Now, there's one thing I'd like to point out. This movie is super cheesy. Like, they have some real generic anime shit for its dialogue. And now, Demon Slayer is an unapologetically shonen series. It never really strives to be something like deeper or more like, outside of the shonen realm. So it's not like a big complaint for me or anything. But I mean, this dialed that shit up to like a fucking level 100 here. The raid boss of generic shonen dialogue. Like, when the villain is talking, he's like, I am a cartoonishly evil villain who likes to eat humans. I love the taste of humans because I am just evil demon. Oh, how could an evil demon not win when I'm so evil and you're just good for the sake of being good, you do-gooder? And your friend who is a powerful man is also a do-gooder against me, evil guy. Like, it's this crazy cartoonish villain dialogue that you'd hear like in 1960s superhero cartoons. It's very like, ooh, it makes you kind of cringe a little bit, but it's still fine in the context of the movie. But I can tell you, especially getting towards like getting into the second half, the latter half of it, it gets real on the nose with its dialogue. Like, friendship is power and evil is evil, that kind of shit. So that gets a little grating sometimes. One of my main complaints about Demon Slayer, like the actual show outside of the movie, was I feel like when the character has a trait, like a unique trait about them, they just overdo it and beat the fuck out of it. Like, one of the Hashira's trait will be that they're always distracted, so every time they're on screen, it's, oh, I'm distracted. Shit like that, where they just hammer home one thing about them, and that's all the character is. In the movie, they don't do that. Like Zenitsu in the show, every time he was on screen, he was crying or whining about something. In the movie, he does still do that, but since it's shorter, they don't just focus on that character trait of him. Now, don't get me wrong, he's fucking slobbering and crying a lot in the film, but it's like justified here. It's not just like, oh, Zenitsu's crying again, just classic Zenitsu. Here he does a lot more than that. He goes into his badass state, he has some really good moments, and he's like a good comic relief character in the movie as well. So I don't really have any complaints about any of that. Really, if you're interested in even considering seeing Demon Slayer, you've already watched the show. You know what to expect. And I can tell you for sure, you will not be let down. So pop it into the moist meter, no surprise, 95%. A lot of the anime I've been rating recently has obviously been super high, and I really think it's because the anime has just been super fucking good. Like, I know a lot of people pointed out, like, I'm really generous with anime reviews. but it's just because it's really, really good currently. A lot of these shows are just fucking beautiful, really impressive works of art. And Demon Slayer is absolutely no exception. They went all out here, and it paid off. It's a wonderful film. It's really good. I really, really enjoyed it. Plus, when it comes to anime, if I don't like it, I just drop it. So I never end up moist metering anime I don't like in some way, which is why I haven't really had one that I've rated fucking lower than like a 60. I just wanted to get that out there since this is another anime review, which is a fucking high mark. I just don't have any complaints about it. There's easy things you can pick apart because, like I said, it's very unapologetically shonen, but you already know that going into the movie. It's Demon Slayer, and then it's a Demon Slayer movie. You know what to expect, and they deliver in a big, big way. It's incredible hype. It's incredible fun. So if you like Demon Slayer, you're gonna really enjoy the movie. That's about it. So yeah. Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're looking at Vivy Fluorite Eyes Song. This is an anime that was criminally underrated for like the first 4 episodes. I didn't even know this shit came out except for my Twitch chat constantly recommending it to me, and by constantly I mean like the same 5 or 6 people saying how good it was, which is surprising considering this is actually written in part by the mind behind Re:Zero, which is an extremely popular anime, and this is another project that they've taken on. So I would have thought there'd been a fucking ton of hype around it, but there really wasn't from what I saw in the beginning. Around the middle, though, then it really popped off. I saw a lot of people talking about it, which is great because this show is fantastic. The show is 13 episodes, and I can't imagine there'll ever be another one because it wraps itself up beautifully. And I really like that it is just a short, condensed story that just takes you on a beautiful journey. It's animated by Wit Studio, which was behind Attack on Titan and Vinland Saga, so they're an extremely talented studio, and this is just as visually incredible. This show is able to do in 13 episodes what some shows fail to do in 13 years. It really gets you emotionally invested in pretty much every character in the universe and really gets you attached to everything going on. It tells the story of an AI songstress tasked with the mission of saving humanity from a future where AIs kill everyone. She teams up with a machine from the future called Matsumoto, and the two begin their work on the Singularity Project to avoid that future. AIs are always given one mission and one mission only, and her mission was make everyone happy with her singing, but in addition to that, her main goal is using that mission to save humanity. It's kind of hard to explain without seeing the show, and I don't want to spoil anything, so that's really about as deep as I can get into that for the premise of the show, but it executes some really heavy themes really well. It tackles such human emotions in the context of AIs trying to understand them and as they evolve, even experiencing them. It also helps that the music is so good in this. I mean, as you can probably tell from the title of it, music plays a very big role in this universe, and I think they do a great job of really selling you on that. The songs fucking slap, and every time a song plays, it's like a full-blown AMV. You get like little butterflies in your ball sack, and you get like a really cool montage of sometimes action going on. Like the show isn't filled with action, so don't go in here and expecting like Jujutsu Kaisen or anything like that. But when there is action, it's great, and it's really fucking full throttle shit. But don't expect a ton of it. But just know that when it is used, it's used well and executed wonderfully, and the music complements it because the soundtrack absolutely slaps. It's not anything corny or cheesy. Some of the lyrics will put a smile on your face because, you know, it's some very anime shit like, what does it mean to sing from the heart? This is what the heart is. It's time to talk about friends and heart. And that's some of the lyrics to some of the songs, but it doesn't matter because the song is great and it's really good in that context considering that these are AIs. Emotions aren't necessarily like second nature to them, right? So I don't know. I think it really works. There's very few things to dislike about this show, but I don't think it's perfect either. There's times where, like certain episodes, the thing that they're trying to accomplish seems counterintuitive to their overall goal of stopping the eradication of humanity. Like sometimes I was wondering how what they were doing would have any impact on the future. Like sometimes I thought it would just be the exact opposite, like they were fucking helping get AIs thrown in the dumpster, or have AIs throw humans in the dumpster and then shit on them. Like sometimes the goals just didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. By the end it does, but as you're experiencing it, I found myself getting confused, and I think some other people will as well. Especially, without spoilers again, there's a character, I probably can't even talk about it because it is kind of a spoiler, but there is a character who the only way you even know what they're truly doing is by paying extremely close attention during like a couple sentences of exposition that gets dropped suddenly. If you've seen the show, you might know what I'm talking about, or I just sound like a raving fucking lunatic from Arkham Asylum. But there's definitely confusing moments. The show can get very convoluted and confusing if you're not paying extremely close attention to it. But other than that, I don't think there's much to dislike about it. So without being able to get too deep into it, I'll just go ahead and plug it into the moist meter now. I think Vivy is an easy 90%. I think this is another show that's right up there with some of the greats. This is a completely original one too, with the team up from the ReZero author as well as Chaos Child. I'm not familiar with Chaos Child, which is why I more highlighted the ReZero author. So I really think they've just done an incredible job with this. Wit Studio, apparently this was only done as like a side project for them, and they still absolutely crushed it. Their fucking bench players, their B team is still better than some of the best in the business. It's crazy how talented Wit Studios is. I think this is a great show, and I definitely recommend it. That's it. So yeah. Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at Tokyo Revengers, and this shit absolutely slaps. I wasn't even going to watch this anime initially because it didn't seem interesting to me. It just sounded boring. I had heard it pitched as middle schoolers do crime and bad shit and form a gang. And I was like, well, it's just middle schoolers. What do? Steal bubblegum from gas stations? Download an aimbot for Fortnite? Like, it doesn't sound very cool or interesting. But eventually Tiana convinced me that I should check it out, and I did, and I'm glad that I did because it is an absolute banger. So I don't think this is a spoiler. The main focal point of the show is about the main character Takamichi's ability to go from present day 2017 back 12 years into the past when he was a middle schooler in order to change some unfavorable things that are happening in his life and the world around him. Now, a lot of it does take place at a middle school age, but you never really get that impression because all the characters you see are like fucking adults. They drive motorcycles, they kill people, they stab people. Like, it doesn't really ever feel like they're actual middle schoolers. It just feels like they're adults who are really short. So I don't even know why they bothered making it middle school. They could have just said, like, here's some 30-year-olds, and here they are 12 years ago when they were 18. Because that's really what it feels like. Like, middle school is never, like, an important thing here at all. I don't even recall if anyone's parents ever get mentioned. You only see them at school, like, twice. The show is about delinquents forming a gang and gangs going to war. And they're using, like, fucking knives, bombs, guns, stabbings, and shit. Like, it's not, like, just middle schoolers, like, using a slingshot shooting rocks at someone. Which is exactly what I expected. I thought it'd be, like, some codename Kids Next Door shit, like Weenie Hut Jr. But no, in Tokyo Revengers, they're fucking torturing people and blasting their heads off and shit. So, it being pitched as, here's middle schoolers doing crime, is kind of misleading, because it's more like, here's some fucking badass gangs going to war. I think the show is really good. I think the writing is super strong in this show. It's mainly focusing on its characters and not on its action. There is action, but when it's there, it's usually a huge, important event that changes the entire scope of where the story goes. When there is action, it's animated well, albeit not like the flashiest or the best, so don't go in here expecting like Jujutsu Kaisen levels of action. I always mention action when talking about anime because most people perceive anime to be like action-oriented shit, so I always think it's important to at least let you know that if an anime isn't all about action, just to be aware of that. When there's not a ton of like fights in here, but like I said, when there are, it's usually a big gang-related fight that really pushes the narrative forward. Again, the focal point is on its character and its world that they build, and I think they do a great job of fleshing out all the characters that they introduce here and make you care about them, whether you want them to succeed or want them to fail. That's not to say the characters are entirely unique either. Even some of my favorite characters like Mikey aren't exactly like the most special anime character ever made. He's just like this invincible badass who also has a soft side, you know? It's not unexplored things, like there are typical anime cliches in here, but I think it does a really great job of just delivering a fun story, fun characters, and making you care about them. It also does an excellent job of not overfeeding you too much information where it convolutes its plot. When you have things like time travel in a show, things get messy really quick. And I think Tokyo Revengers, it does it beautifully where when you time travel, you are locked in there and you don't have to worry about too much else going on. There's never a time where it's like you're really lost in the plot and like, oh wait, how does this all connect? Wait, the main character is actually blessed by 15 different angels, if we remember back to episode 7. But then again, there's also the time vortex, which occurred in episode 9, which has changed everything here, and a new character. Like, you never get to this point where it's like you don't understand what's happening. Now, I want to get to a couple things I don't like too much about the show, and I don't want this to be misconstrued. I think Takemichi is a great character, but he is, like, the most generic anime protagonist I've seen in quite some time. Like, he falls into, like, every standard trope for an anime protagonist. He's constantly whining and constantly crying. That's like his superpower here, is the ability to cry in every episode. There's 24 episodes in Tokyo Revengers, and I am certain he has cried at least once in every single episode. It is shocking how often he is bawling his fucking eyes out. The characters also mention this, calling him the crybaby hero. Like, but it's still grating just to constantly see him cry. And he does this standard anime protagonist shit where he has to, like, re-explain himself and, like, reaffirm that he's gonna do good things. So, like, in the beginning of one episode, he's like, I'm gonna save everyone. And then something happens where it's a little tough for a second. He's like, wait, I'm going to save everyone like I decided 10 minutes ago. How did I forget? Wait a minute. I need to save everyone like I fucking said 10 minutes ago. And I'll, like, drive that point home 4 times across, like, 5 minutes. It's like, Jesus Christ, we get it. It's just, it gets frustrating sometimes. And he's constantly getting his ass beat. He's one of those protagonists that's just like this giant fucking punching bag. Just this massive pile of meat that everyone takes turns punching like they're training like Rocky at the butcher shop. So he's just constantly just getting his ass pounded. And he never gets any better. And he's constantly crying about it. Like, you would think after the millionth time you've got your ass beat, you would at least try and learn how to fight. But he doesn't bother. He's like, I want to be strong, but I don't want to put in any of the work either. So he's never, like, training to be a good fighter. He's like, if only I was stronger to help people, if only I could fight and protect people. And it's like, bro, you're a fucking time traveler. You could absolutely just make, like, a little extra time to train a little bit. Like, fucking kick a tree or something, like a Muay Thai fighter. Like, you know, strengthen your bones or something. He's been punched in the face so many times, his entire fucking face must be like a giant callus made out of scar tissue by this point. His face is probably stronger than steel. Like, at least try and learn how to throw a punch back so you can capitalize on your damn near invulnerability that you've developed, like Colossus from the X-Men. Like, it's frustrating because I do think he's a good character, but oftentimes it just gets tiresome to keep listening to him cry and repeat, like, the same goal that he has explained a million times by now. And for some reason, it's like he keeps forgetting. I don't want to spoil too much, but there's a girl he wants to protect, and then sometimes he'll totally forget it, and he'll have, like, this fucking revelation, like this giant euphoric moment of, Eureka, wait, there's a girl I need to protect, which is why I'm doing all of this, I totally forgot, and then he'll, like, re-explain that he needs to save this girl. It's like, fuck, you know, like, how dumb is this guy? And then he starts crying about that too, and then he gets his ass beat. Like, it's just sometimes the character gets frustrating. Again, I think Takemichi's a good character, and you sympathize with the character pretty much the entire show. You're rooting for him the whole time, but my god, it definitely gets a bit annoying to see and hear him cry and whine for the millionth time and re-explain what he wants to do. Another complaint that I have about the show, it's not like a big complaint or anything. In regards to its action, I do think, like, it's done pretty well, but sometimes it's very clear that they didn't have the budget to animate, like, a full fight scene, so it'll just be like, here's a clip of a character standing here and a clip of a character standing here. And then here's a picture of a punch that we just assume was thrown. It's just still images for some of their fights at points, which is disappointing. And then sometimes it'll just be sound effects of a fight while you're looking at something else because, again, it looks like they didn't have the budget to actually show you the fight. So that's a bit frustrating, but since the focal point isn't on the action is there as mainly like a plot tool, it's not the biggest deal. It's just I would have liked to see it. Like, if this had a higher budget, I bet the fights could have been even better. Like, they're not bad by any means. Like, especially like the final giant gang fight, I think that's done very well. Especially highlighting Mikey's ability to be like this incredible badass. They hype him up this entire show, and you finally get to see just how badass he is, and it hits. Like, it really does. But you'll absolutely notice times where it feels like they weren't able to animate it to the extent they wanted to for their fights. Now, there's one other thing I want to focus on before giving this the score on the moist meter. It's the villain. The main villain of the show, I think, is really strong. The villain here, I think, is really fucking cool. The entire show, they hype him up to be this absolutely ruthless, evil, awful person, but they never really make him a one-dimensional character who is only cartoonishly evil. And by the end of the season, you're left wondering, you know, what is actually making them this awful? Why are they evil and doing these things? They hint at possible motives throughout the season, and by the end of it you get really curious to see how they expand the character and you see a different side of them perhaps. I get really interested to see where they take that character because I'm really drawn into the story now, so I'm excited for season 2 hopefully. Plugging Tokyo Revengers into the Moist Meter, I'm going to give it an 85%. I think it's a very good show. I think it's a very strong show, especially if you care about characters and world building. I think it does it really well. I think Tokyo Revengers accomplishes in 24 episodes what some shows fail to do in 5 seasons. They give you a cast of characters and make you care about them and get interested in them. So I think it's a great show and I'd recommend it. That's about it. See ya. Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at Demon Slayer Season 2. And god damn, by the end of this season, the hype was so unbelievably high, I had to control my own breathing to stop myself from coming in my pants so much. I was the embodiment of the ejaculation Hashira. It was crazy. The animation here was on a totally different level than pretty much all other anime. And I didn't think they could really top season 1 in terms of visuals and like how smooth and incredible that was. But season 2 did it, I would even say, better. Like the second to last episode, right before the finale, was some of the most incredible animation I've ever seen. Like, just straight up in any show. It was fucking unreal. The budget for this, I can't even imagine. It has to be astronomical. I don't know who's funding this, but Ufotable must have unlimited deep pockets, like Tommy Wiseau, you know, like where is it all coming from? The mystery of where they're getting the money to make this kind of high quality animation is absolutely astounding. The entire season was incredible though. Like, I will say, it got off to a bit of a rocky start in my eyes because the first 7 episodes are dedicated to just breaking up the Mugen Train movie into 7 episodes. Except for the first episode, that one was fresh, but after that it was just the Mugen Train broken up into episodes, which, again, I knew it was coming, but still didn't really like that much. But they did announce it beforehand, so it didn't ruin the show for me. Christmas wasn't canceled. The Grinch didn't come in here and wipe his ass with Demon Slayer or anything. But I will say, since Demon Slayer is 18 episodes and 7 of them are dedicated to content we've already seen in the movie, it was a little underwhelming. But those 11 episodes of the Entertainment District arc are fantastic. It'll put some hair on your chest. Like, the last 5 or 6 episodes of the season are almost non-stop action, full throttle, nuts to butts, never stopping. And it is beautiful. Just when you think they're reaching this crescendo, the climax, it just keeps going and keeps ramping up. And it's so good. Even my least favorite character in the show, Zenitsu, had moments here where he was really badass and did some cool shit. And not only when he was asleep. So Zenitsu, when he's awake, is just a whining, bumbling imbecile and just constantly screaming and yelling. And to me, it's super grating because it's all he really does. But when he's asleep, that's when he enters like the goddamn avatar state of ass beating. And it's great. But every time he's awake, it's just, I don't really like him as a character. But this season, when he was awake, he did more than just snivel, cry, shit his diaper, whatever. He actually participated and was able to actually contribute meaningfully and have moments where he was badass when not asleep. So that was good to see. Hopefully he'll continue to grow as a character because I think he is a very cool character, or at least half of him is. It's a full-blown Jekyll and Hyde thing where when he's asleep, I think he's a cool character because he does cool shit, he says cool shit. But when he's awake, man, I can't fucking stand the guy. Inosuke also has a lot of moments to shine here. Inosuke does a lot of cool shit, very important character, and just really fun. Tanjiro, of course, goes into the absolute overdrive turbo mode and unlocks some new power and gets crazy strong. Nezuko as well. Every character here gets stronger and cooler. And of course we get a new Hashira to follow, Tengen, who had big shoes to fill after Rengoku, and I think he does a fantastic job. I think he's a really cool character, we get a lot of good background on him, and he is just such a fucking machine when it comes to his fight against the main villains here, which I'm not gonna spoil, and it's just really fucking fun. He's a good character. I will say though, across the board, I don't think this season has a lot of character development past their power levels. I don't think the characters themselves develop that much, nor their relationship all that much. Things kind of, by the time the season ends, they're kind of the exact same people they were coming into it. Maybe a little bit closer, and we as the viewers get more details on some of the background, but other than that, I don't think the characters themselves reach some kind of new level of enlightenment or development. apart from being able to really beat more ass more efficiently. I mean, it's Demon Slayer. Just like in Season 1, it's a super simple plot, and there's nothing wrong with that. The narrative is simple on purpose. It's unapologetically shonen. Pretty standard stuff. So most people aren't watching Demon Slayer to be drawn into the lore and the storytelling of it, because it's all very simple. And I think that works to its benefit. Most people are here for a really light, fun, over-the-top, beautiful action show, and that's exactly what Season 2 continues to deliver, and I think even delivers better than Season 1 at certain points. So I was super pleased with it. Yes, the characters aren't getting a ton of depth or anything like that, but now they're able to really put their ass in someone's asshole. They can go absolutely nuts with all of their newfound powers and abilities that are just amplifying the intensity of the show to new levels, and I really appreciated it. So plugging Demon Slayer Season 2 in the moist meter, I'm going to give it again a 95%. I think it kept the momentum from the first season, built upon it, and made it even better. So I had a lot of fun, and I'm sure if you already like Season 1, you'll have a lot of fun with this one as well. That's about it. So yeah. Attack on Titan, the final season, Part 2, Turbo Mode Arcade Edition. It's all come to an end now, until Part 3. So this is the final season, second part. It leads into the third part. I'm sure that's not a spoiler now since it's like the #1 thing on Twitter. By the time they actually finish the Attack on Titan story, it's going to be like the fucking Dragon Balls. There's going to be like 8 of these goddamn things, and you have to gather them all together for the complete season. Or it'd be like the fucking Horcruxes from Harry Potter, like 7 parts of this that, you know, all combined to form the complete package. And I won't even complain, because Part 2 was extraordinary. I enjoyed every episode. I didn't think there was any like dog shitty moments in it or anything like that. As I've mentioned before, Attack on Titan is the only show ever that I've watched every single week since it started airing. I've watched every single episode the day that it aired, or at least within a couple days of it airing. I never fell behind and had to catch up. I never just waited for a season to end to binge it. I've watched it week by week since the very first episode. It's a show that I'm very invested in, and I think the whole final season, not just Part 2, has just been amazing. Mappa's outdone themselves. I think the visuals have been outstanding. All of the action has been beautifully animated. They're using CGI really well, where it's not like glaringly obvious. It doesn't look like fucking 2001's Beast Wars or anything like a lot of other anime do when they introduce CGI, or it looks like an actual like Jimmy Neutron pilot from the late 90s because of the CGI shit. They do a great job of using CGI when necessary and not making it like obviously like bad. I just think they've done an outstanding job with the show, and I know the manga ended and the ending was very divisive in the community. The reception was super split. I haven't read the manga. I'm not trying to spoil myself for the show, but with the way parts 1 and 2 have gone so far, I can't imagine them fumbling the bag so hard or like blowing out their asshole where it just becomes super trash at the end. They're setting themselves up for like a really great conclusion, I feel, and hopefully this statement doesn't age like milk where it turns out it is an absolutely awful ending up there with like Promised Neverland Season 2 where it's just like a slideshow to finish it off or some shit. Then I'll just look silly for believing in them. I'll just be sitting here looking fucking stupid with my soft cock in hand like, well, this is what I get for dreaming, I suppose. I'm hoping it continues with this masterclass of storytelling and animation. And yes, I understand for a lot of people it's just shonen, so it's not meant to be like super profound or anything, but I just really think Attack on Titan transcends like that shonen barrier of storytelling where a lot of people look at it as childish. I think Attack on Titan does a great job of just making it enjoyable for anyone of any age. It just is a really fun show. Part 2, in particular, I think did a great job of presenting a lot of exposition without it ever feeling boring. Every episode had at least 1 or 2 moments where you're like actually shitting your diaper. You're like, oh my god, I can't believe that's happening right now. I don't want to get into any spoilers because I really think this is a must-watch show for anyone who's a fan of animation in any capacity. So I won't get into spoilers, but the transition of Eren from like a protagonist you root for to a character where you're like, damn, I don't know about that shit. It was one of my favorite things about Code Geass, where the protagonist becomes someone that you can't really root for anymore because they're making some decisions where it's like, damn, that shit's fucking evil. You know, and you never really know where their heart is or what their real motives are, and I really love that about, well, Code Geass and now Attack on Titan. I just find it to be a really interesting storytelling device. I really love that element of it, and I think Attack on Titan does it super well. In part 2 of this season, the characters go through true fucking despair. Pretty much every character here has to face some demons and make some really hard choices that have massive consequences. And there's a really compelling moment. Again, I don't want to get into spoilers. I would highly recommend watching it. Part 2, I think, has done a great job, and it's one of the few anime that I think really gets everyone together and talking because there's just so much to talk about. It's a show that just presents so many moving parts, and they all just kind of work and fall into place. I never really get the impression that things were just made up on the fly, that everything had a bigger purpose in the grand scheme of the narrative, and I think it's done great in the show. It's hard to talk about Attack on Titan without giving spoilers, but I really think it's for the best not to give any spoilers to anyone that hasn't seen the show, because it really is something pretty special if you ask me. I think this is one of those anime that people will look back on in 10 years and be like, damn, I remember where I was when Attack on Titan wrapped up. What a journey it was. I also think Attack on Titan Final Season Part 2 Revenge of the Sith A New Hope has the best opening in all of anime. And I don't say that lightly, but the rumbling from Sim is so good. I was already a fan of Sim before this, and this is probably their best song. It is so good. This shit just slaps so hard. It is probably just a little bit better than Vinland Saga's opening from Survive Said the Prophet, which was my previous favorite anime opening. This one I never skipped. I was always just fucking jamming out. It was an absolute boner jam. It really was. So great work from Sim here with the rumbling. There was just nothing I disliked about the part 2 of the final season here. There wasn't any like particular moments or episodes or any decisions they made that I thought were weak. I just thought everything they did was a great and logical progression of the characters and the plot. And it took me on a fucking ride, and I enjoyed every second of it. So, plugging Attack on Titan Final Season Part 2 into the Moist Meter, I'm giving it a 95%. Like I said, I think the show is really a must-watch. Again, it's not going to be like the most thought-provoking piece of media of all time, and I don't think it's trying to be. It does enough to transcend like just childish shonen action. It presents you with a really interesting narrative with really interesting characters and presented beautifully from Mappa's animation that I really think it could just be enjoyed by everyone. It doesn't have to be like a game-changing piece of, timeless fiction, but right now I just think it's like a really enjoyable and fun adventure to go on that'll constantly have you guessing and on the edge of your seat for where everything ends up. So I enjoyed it, and that's about it. See ya. Looking at me and thinking to yourself, damn, looks like Charlie hasn't slept in over 24 hours. You'd be absolutely right. And since I couldn't sleep, I decided why not watch the entire Cyberpunk anime that just dropped, Cyberpunk Edgerunners. So Cyberpunk Edgerunners is a new anime set in the Cyberpunk universe, and I don't need an implant to read your mind. You're probably wondering if it's as disappointing as the game was, and the answer is an absolute fuck no. The anime slaps so hard. Let's just rip this band-aid off now. We all know that Cyberpunk released in a pretty shitty state. There were more bugs in that game than there is in a frat house trash can. And it suffered. It was a very disappointing launch, probably one of the most disappointing launches in recent memory. I understand they've been addressing it and making it better over time, and I think that's great. I haven't gone back to it. I just can't bring myself to it. It's painful. Like getting a brain dance from a goddamn garbage truck. I really can't see myself going back to the game, but I'm happy they didn't just abandon it in an unacceptable state. But anyway, this anime is set in that universe, and as I understand it, is actually canon to that universe. And I think that's great, because Cyberpunk, even with all its flaws, had an amazing setting. And I'm super glad we get to explore more of it here with Edgerunner. It is so good. Now, it's not perfect, nothing ever is, unless of course it's a Brendan Fraser movie, but this show goes so hard, just non-stop, full throttle, nuts to butts. It's done by Studio Trigger, and I think it is probably their best work so far. It is breathtaking, just a gorgeous, beautiful show. A lot of passion went into this, and it really paid off. They went fucking turbo mode on this one. They dialed this shit up to the next level. I was blown away by it. I think everything fit super well. I even got similar vibes in this show as I did to Redline, which I think is one of the best animated movies ever made. There's just moments in this show where I was like, damn, I feel like I'm watching Redline again for the first time, which is just an amazing feeling. One of the best feelings a human being can experience, true euphoria. When you watch Redline, it becomes like the proudest moment of your life, up there with like graduating college or getting married. It's just such a good movie. Highly recommend checking it out, but I'm getting sidetracked. The point is, there were times in this show where I was like, wow, they're up there with some of the best when it comes to animation, especially when it comes to the action. They didn't pull any punches. It's hyper violent, super gory, over the top. Everyone like blows up. There's ribs flying. There's intestines going all over the place. Intestines flying around as poop's falling out the back end. You know, like it goes hard. It doesn't hold anything back, and I love that shit. That hyper violent action is always just a guilty pleasure of mine. It leads to really goofy, over the top moments that I think are just always fun, and they do it wonderfully here. And since it's set in the Cyberpunk universe, the action's pretty creative since everyone's got all kinds of implants and all kinds of crazy cybernetic augments that let them do wild shit. So it's always flashy and it's always great. The action shines, and really everything shines here because they clearly put a lot of work into every little excruciating detail of this universe. I can't praise the visuals enough here. But now let me briefly pop this show's dick out of my mouth. This is where I have a few complaints. It's story and writing. I don't think the story's bad by any means. In fact, I actually really like the story and the direction. But I feel like there was a lot they wanted to tell and only a short time to tell it. It's a 10-episode series, which is pretty normal length. But I really feel like they wanted something bigger. So they condensed all of these massive story beats into really small chunks. So, for example, in episode 1, we learn a lot of information about the main character and his relationship to his mom. But we learn all of that information through like maybe 2 minutes of just exposition dump, like constantly. So it leads to a lot of things just kind of falling flat because they got there so quickly without really building up to these things. I'm not going to give spoilers, so I'm not going to go too deep into examples, but I wanted to just highlight the character's relationship to his mother right away because so much happens in such a short amount of time in just episode 1 that it's hard to really care. You know, you just kind of brush it off like, oh, well, I really didn't care at all because they didn't make me care. And there's just times where the writing's kind of silly, where they're having a conversation and it's just so stiff, like, Mom, I don't really want to go to school. She's like, you know I want you to go to school for a better life. It's why I'm working so hard for you, David. It's why I'm working these jobs to put money on the table to send you to that very prestigious academy. And it's why I'm never home, David. It's why you never see me at home because you and I, we're not bonding enough because I'm busy working for you. You know, it's just like kind of that old cliche. It's just, I don't know, they hit you so quickly over the head with a lot of exposition that you just kind of roll your eyes at some of the writing. But overall, I still think it's good. Like, the characters I think are well written as they develop throughout the 10 episodes, but they just try and do so much, and they do it a little too fast, in my opinion. It's not a huge problem or anything, it's not a deal breaker, it doesn't ruin the show or anything, and it doesn't even really hold it back. It's not that detrimental or anything, but it's something that just kind of stood out as a bit weaker than the rest of the components. You know, the visuals are on another level, they're popping off hard as fuck, and the soundtrack is always boner jams. The soundtrack is really good. And that's something you'll notice right away in episode 1. Like, as they're just doing things, like, even just driving in the car, like with this conversation I was talking about, there's like a backing track to it, which is just like an actually great song that's lightly playing in the background, and it just adds a lot to the ambiance of the whole world. I really appreciated that. I think they did a great job with their music choice here. So yeah, overall, the show's amazing. Plugging into the moist meter, I'm giving Cyberpunk Edgerunners a 90%. Really, the biggest flaw with the show is it had too much for too little time. I want more from it. Like, I'm super invested in the universe now thanks to the show, and I would have liked to see it develop more across a longer runtime, like maybe 2 seasons to reach the conclusion that it reaches in the show here, instead of just have it be such a speed run almost. But regardless, the show is absolutely fucking fantastic. I think they did a great job with it, and yeah, that's really about it. So yeah, welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at Chainsaw Man. This anime had more hype around it than if they announced a sequel to the Bible. Everything about anime this season was geared towards how great Chainsaw Man was going to be. I couldn't stop hearing about it. People keep recommending it. And it was being animated by MAPPA, so all of these things put together into a beautiful stew was a recipe for hype. So I went into this show with very high expectations, and I'm happy to say I wasn't disappointed at all. The show's just really good. Now, the plot isn't anything super unique or special. It's a very simple, very standard storyline. There's devils out there, and there's people that hunt them. So we follow the devil hunters. Our protagonist has fused with the chainsaw devil, so he's got a dangly little ripcord on his chest, and when he's ready to, beat and eat some ass, he yanks the ripcord and has chainsaws shoot out of his arm and out of his head, and then he just absolutely gores everything around him. The story isn't anything incredible, but the characters are really fun. It's just unapologetically goofy. For example, the main character, Dingy, is just this extremely horny kid whose main motivation is squeezing tits for a long time, and then he gets his first kiss, but the girl that kissed him pukes in his mouth. Like, it's not afraid to be over the top and silly, but also self-aware. And this show has spawned a hornier community on Twitter than Genshin Impact. I swear to God, this show must have changed people's entire lives, because there are so many accounts that are dedicated to just talking about who they want to fuck and why they're their favorite girl and this and that. Like, it's a full-time job for some of these people to thirst over the anime characters in this one. But of course, the main selling point of Chainsaw Man has always been, as I understand it, its action, which is brought to life beautifully by Mappa. Mappa has done so much work over the last couple years. They've said yes to like every anime project imaginable. Like, if there's been even whispers of a manga being adapted into an anime or a new season of an anime needing another studio, it's always Mappa that raises their hands to do the work. They're like the Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. They can't turn down any roles, but unlike The Rock, every role Mappa takes is a fucking hit. Like, they only make bangers. They've done so many anime over the last couple years. I don't know how they haven't spread themselves out too thin and had the quality, suffer for it. But somehow they're able to keep up an incredibly high level of quality, the best in the industry oftentimes. And all that talent's put on full display with Chainsaw Man. The action is amazing. Every time there's a fight, it's over the top, it's gory, and it's so great. And it goes hard. It goes so fucking hard. I love that the main way of fighting for people that aren't the main character, Dingy, is through contracts with devils. So a lot of the devil hunters, well, all of them, have contracts where they can use other devils' powers. So one of the devil hunters has a contract with a ghost devil where she has a little ghost arm that she can use to strangle and blast people. There's a cursed devil that another main character uses. It's a really fun way of fighting that keeps it fresh, where everyone has very unique ways of approaching combat. And they spared no expense when it came to the animation. They didn't take any cheap ways out. This is very clearly a lot of work going into it to make it look the best that it can, and it really pays off. The show's just great. I don't have any major complaints about it. I have like a couple minor nitpicks, but none of it's like important or detrimental to the overall show. I think oftentimes it gets lost in its own horniness with its main character, so sometimes that gets a bit grating. But it's never to a point where I don't like the character or anyone around him. And it's one of the few anime where the humor sometimes lands for me. Oftentimes when anime tries humor, it doesn't really make me laugh. But I actually did have a couple giggles throughout Chainsaw Man, so that was a pleasant surprise and pretty refreshing. It just doesn't really fall into like anything I expected from a mainstream anime. Of course it has tons of cliches and tons of tropes, but it never like overuses it or has it overstay its welcome. Everything in this show is mainly geared as a vessel towards more over-the-top and fucking beautiful action, and I really just appreciated that. Now, there's only 12 episodes of this season, which is a little disappointing because shows like Jujutsu Kaisen and Demon Slayer, both of which had comparable levels of animation quality, as well as very similar levels of hype, both of those had 24 and 26 episode long seasons. Season 1 of Demon Slayer was 26 episodes, Season 1 of Jujutsu Kaisen was 24, and it was able to hold this intensity, like this full fucking nuts to butts action and jaw-dropping animation for a long time, whereas Chainsaw Man's very bite-sized, like it's giving you an appetizer. So I'm hoping that it can continue this level of quality. I hope it doesn't like fall off and, suck shit, because that'd be tragic. But yeah, it is just a little underwhelming that it's such a short season. I would have liked more episodes because it's just so good, and I would have really liked more time to get drawn into the entire universe and see more of it. But it's still extremely good. Plugging it in the moist meter, I'm going to be giving it a 90%. I do highly recommend it, especially if you like shows like Jujutsu Kaisen and Demon Slayer. So yeah, lived up to the hype, so I was satisfied. That's about it. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of Demon Slayer. I think the anime is absolutely amazing. You can watch all my previous Moist Meters on seasons 1 and 2, as well as the Demon Slayer movie if you want to hear a 28-year-old man gush. I just think the show has been spectacular, and it's a series that's been most known for its animation. Just really set the bar on high quality, breathtaking animation, just amazing visuals during action sequences in particular. Watching a fight in Demon Slayer feels as good as having sex, but for your eyes. And now season 3 of Demon Slayer just wrapped up, so it's Moist Meter time. And this is going to ruffle feathers, but honesty is the best policy. I think this is the weakest season of Demon Slayer. I really think that it was a big step down for the series, except for the final episode. I think the final episode was great, but overall, it just was pretty underwhelming from start to finish. Now, before you furiously type on the keyboard and just light that shit on fire with friction from how quickly and angrily you're typing, let me explain. My complaints are not going to be the same ones that you're seeing on Twitter. There's a lot of people on Twitter that have been whining and crying about the CGI. They are saying the animation in Season 3 was really weak and gross because there was so much CGI. I think that's a load of fish paste. That's a bunch of barnacles. I don't think the CGI was egregiously bad or anything. Yes, there is more of it in the season because 2 of the big bads have summons that are fully CGI. So the big bads of this season are Upper Rank 4 and Upper Rank 5 Demon. Upper Rank 5 Demon, one of his main moves is summoning CGI fish that waddle around and carry little blades with them. They're not even really blades, they're like tiny little can openers on their goofy little fins. And they're fully CGI. And I'm sure you've seen people meme on some of the scenes with them, because it is CGI and the characters have to fight that. And then the other demon, the Upper Rank 4, summons a fully CGI dragon. And a lot of viewers got very frustrated about that. But I don't think it was bad. Demon Slayer's always had a lot of CGI in it, but usually it's like certain attacks will have CGI used to help blend visually for sequences, or, move characters around during a fight. This is probably the first time it's been like fully CGI like monsters they have to fight, at least that I can recall. So I guess that could be a bit jarring for spectators, but I don't think they did it poorly. Like, I don't overall think the animation in Season 3 was bad, like a lot of people are saying it is. I think that's a silly argument to make. It is still absolutely beautiful. The fights were still amazing. I think the weakest part of Season 3, what I really didn't like about it, is the 2 villains. Upper Rank 4 and Upper Rank 5, both of them, just weren't very interesting. They weren't fleshed out at all. They were also significantly weaker than last season's villain, Upper Rank 6. Upper Rank 6 felt like an extremely powerful demon. Like, how the fuck are the good guys supposed to overcome this? This thing is damn near unkillable. It's got everything. It's fucking cheating. But in here, the good guys were never really struggling. It never felt like there was ever real problems with fighting Upper Rank 4 and 5. Especially 5. 5 is such a throwaway joke of a villain, it's sickening. Upper Rank 5 is a demon that basically just teleports around in vases. Like, he's a vase collector, and he summons fish out of them. He can suck people into vases. He can use attacks through vases. But he fights the Mist Hashira. And the Mist Hashira is very strong, all of them are. But Upper Rank 5 just gets absolutely fucking manhandled. Like, the Mist Hashira comes in and goatsies him against his will. Absolutely fucking spreads Upper Rank 5, kills him in like a couple of blows. There was never any stakes there. And he was a goofy villain that didn't have a single shred of backstory given to him, so how the fuck are you supposed to care? And you were never, like, afraid of him. The only thing Upper Rank 5 did was he trapped the Mist Hashira in a bubble for, like, an episode. And he's like, you're gonna suffocate in that bubble, and you won't be able to breathe. Which is already some Weenie Hut Jr. shit. What, the Bubble Master? Okay, whatever. And then he just regains his memories. I won't spoil how he gets out or anything. But then he kills him in, like, 20 seconds. Like, he barely even breaks a sweat. Upper Rank 5's like, damn, you're not taking this seriously, are you? Well, you're about to have to start. And then he instantly dies. Like, it's just such a throwaway. And that was one of the big bads. But he wasn't the focal point. I understand that. Most of the focus was put on Upper Rank 4. Upper Rank 4 is the demon that Tanjiro, Ginya, and then the Love Hashira all fight together. As well as Nezuko, of course. She's always ready to throw hands with the demons here. And he's better, but still seems like such a drastic decline in power from Upper Rank 6 in last season. There is no point throughout the entire fight with upper rank 4 that I ever felt like, oh man, how are they going to beat him? This is getting real dicey. Holy shit, I've got the whole seat, but I'm only using the edge right now. This is intense. This is crazy. It was always like, wow, upper rank 4 is such a weak little pussy. In fact, I don't want to spoil too much about the season, but one of upper rank 4's characteristics is he is literally always running away and afraid. And he's also the size of Stuart Little. He's just like a little rat scurrying around in the forest, so half of the season is spent chasing him around. And he's just always crying and whining. It's literally them chasing Chucky Finster for half of the season. And that's upper rank 4. Now, of course, he does actually fight them in a unique way, but when they're engaging in these fights, I'll say this much because I think it's in the trailer. Upper rank 4 has different versions of himself that fight. The main version is the cowardly crying piss baby one. The other ones stand and fight, but each one only really has one attack. An attack that Tanjiro and Genya have no problem taking right on the chin every single time with no problem. It just really felt easy for them. Whereas last season, it took everything every character in the fucking cast had just to keep up with upper rank 6. They had to dig deep into their soul and go plus ultra 50 times and pull out 1,000 spirit bombs just to get close to killing upper rank 6. And that was the entire cast fighting there, basically. You had Tanjiro, Nezuko, the Hashira Tengen, Inosuke, Zenitsu, all of them having to go way past their limit in order just to fight the brother and sister combo, which was upper rank 6. That felt like, holy shit, this is a big villain. That's a very strong villain. Here, it was more of just a nuisance. Now, per usual, it is still a beautiful show to watch. That's not a complaint of mine. I still really think all of the action was done fantastic. Like, it was still superb to look at. But the villains were just so weak. Not only weak power-wise, but they also didn't really give them any kind of personality or any kind of development whatsoever. Upper rank 4, they do a little flashback montage towards the end to give him some level of depth, but it still falls very flat and it's super quick. They just kind of speed ran a lore exposition dump, so they vomit out some backstory on this guy right before the end of the show. And it's not like that redeemed it, or it's not like that gave a lot of depth to the character, but at least they tried. God damn it, they didn't even look at upper rank 5 to give any level of depth to. They make him look like such a bitch. Like, there's a scene where after he's trapped the Mist Hashira in the bubble, he's, so blown away by the focus on a swordsmith that's honing a blade. He's like, wow, he's so focused, he doesn't even realize I'm here. So then he starts slapping him with vase attacks. And he's barely doing damage to the swordsmith. So upper rank 5 is not even being registered as a threat by a swordsmith at the village, and is also not even doing any real damage to the guy who's honing the blade. Like, everything he does just seems so underwhelming and weak. All of his fish are fucking worthless. They struggled to even kill a child, or even, damage a child who doesn't even know how to fight back. Like, everything about that character was truly just worthless. But at least upper rank 5 led to development for the Mist Hashira, which I guess may have been the point. Though it seems like the Mist Hashira would have eventually regained his memories if he just sat and thought about it for a little while. I don't think he needed to be locked in a bubble for it, but regardless. The Mist Hashira does have development. I do like him. I do think he's a good character. I like his backstory. And narratively, I like a lot of what the Swordsmith Village arc offered. I do like a lot of what it introduced. Genya, I think, is a very interesting character that I'm really excited to see more from. The Love Hashira, she didn't really have a whole lot to do here, but she was still fun because she has this really cool, noodle blade. She has, some kind of noodle sword that she uses to fight against upper rank 4 with, which was really cool. And the Mist Hashira had a lot of time and attention given to him. So I did like a lot of it. I don't really have any main complaints narratively or anything. It's really just feeling underwhelmed at the end of the season because maybe we've just been spoiled for seasons 1 and 2, but this one, the two demons they fight here just did not seem up to par with all of the fights we've had up until this point. I still think everything Demon Slayer is known for is still done well here. It is still beautiful animation. It is still a very pretty show. It's still very fun. And one thing that I think this season does better than any of the other seasons is there's no Zenitsu here, so it's nice not to have to listen to Zenitsu crying all the time. But that crying role did get filled by upper rank 4. So I guess it's just a rule of thumb with Demon Slayer. There has to be constantly a character that is literally always crying, and this time it was upper rank 4. Now, if you've watched my other moist meters, you know I don't hate Zenitsu as a character. I just don't really like how the only thing he does really a lot of the time is just cry. He's very cool when he's asleep though. Here he's not in the season, so that's not even something you have to concern yourself with if you're a big Zenitsu hater. But yeah, overall, I didn't hate the season or anything like that. I actually still think it was a very good season, but it is the weakest season so far of Demon Slayer, in my opinion. So, plugging Demon Slayer Season 3 into the Moist Meter, I'm going to give it a nice 80%. I definitely, of course, still recommend it. I still had fun watching it, but I guess I just always expected the show to keep one-upping itself somehow, but that wasn't the case this time around. It wasn't in the cards. Still a very good season, still enjoyed it, and like I said, narratively, I really like where we're at, and I think that the next season and everything going forward is about to get fucking crazy. I think it's going to pop off, so I'm very excited for more.